is Whataburger Friday Night Stars, presented by Game On Sports, live from the Star in Frisco, Texas, and the Dallas Cowboys headquarters. Here's Kyle Yeomans, Zach Wolchuk, Eric Chiafalo, and Heckma Harrison.
Week 6 of the Texas high school football season is here, and we are back. Whataburger Friday Night Stars, live from the Star in Frisco, Texas. So glad you're with us here on YouTube, Twitter, Vimeo, Facebook. It doesn't matter. You're along for the ride, and what a ride it's going to be, because we've got some massive matchups coming up throughout the DFW area here in Week 6. Kyle Yeomans alongside Zach Wolchuk, Eric Chiafalo to my right now, which is weird to think about because usually I'm looking across the table.
This is very different.
We've kind of flipped it up. And then Heckma Harrison, of course, the greatness. He's the only one that stayed still from week 1.
It's dangerous putting us next to each other.
No, it's not.
I think it's going to be fun.
You know what, the boss, just tell the truth, guys. The bosses have gotten upset with us because they don't think me and Eric get along. I'm looking at you.
Oh my
me and
gosh.
Zach,
I mean, here we go.
Chuck get along. And so they're going to
we just really get along too well.
Is that what it is?
There's been a couple of HR problems from what I hear between you guys.
Right.
So having you that close is a little bit
What
concerning.
kind of HR
It's a risk.
problems?
High risk, high reward is what it is.
I think so.
I think it's going to be very
Mostly
rewarding, don't you?
Mostly
Heckma?
risk.
Yeah.
I think so as well.
We're going to hold
rewarding
hands
than
through this whole
anything.
thing.
But we've
Yes.
already thrown Kyle off enough in the past with the is it Dunn, is it Dune, is it Crowley, is
Oh,
it
it's gonna be
Lowry?
something
And
tonight.
now how many times is he going to call you Eric and me Zach?
Yeah, well, that's the thing is I'm used to looking across the way and
It's okay.
seeing Eric sitting right there, but now I see the beautiful face of Heckma Harrison.
There you go.
And then
Upgrade.
Zach and I have been on the other side of the table before, so that's the fine. That's not going to
okay.
change. But then there's Eric.
Here we
I've
are.
never been this close to Eric,
I know, it's
and
exciting.
it's awesome.
It's exciting.
It's a new era of Friday Night Stars.
It'll
Matt
get
Kent,
gassy, just a fair warning.
Matt Kent and Chris Beam are
Thanks.
still in the back, and they're doing the yeoman's work back in the studio. But, guys, we've got a lot of games to get to throughout the area, but we'll talk about this plenty. But on a scale of 1 to 10, how excited
10.
are you for the South Lake Carroll and Denton Geyer matchup tonight?
15.
Quite
Yeah.
possibly could be the game of the
20?
year.
Yeah, I was about to
Let's
say.
go. It's a district
100.
championship game, I believe.
Oh my gosh!
Easy.
Of course it is. Yes, it's going to be it's the game of the night. It's going to be incredible.
It is going to be a
If it's
ton of
anything
fun.
like last year's, we are in for a treat.
Well, and both teams are better this year than
Yeah?
they were last year. At least that's what it looks like going into this. We'll see if that stays the same come our overtime show tonight. Could be a little bit of a bold statement there. But we've got plenty coming up. Nick Harris is going to join us in studio. We've also got another special guest. We've got 2 special guests tonight, maybe 3, depending on how the night goes. But
Star-studded.
Professor Diggs is going to join us in studio.
It's already been blowing up my Twitter feed.
Yes, he's been a fan of the show on Twitter for quite some time. We're gonna talk to Professor Diggs, talk about some playoff scenarios. Now that it's Week 6, playoff scenarios are around the
And
corner.
he is the man to know. That guy knows exactly how many enrollees are at each school, who could get slotted where. He is an absolute mathematician over there. He's a wizard, Professor Diggs.
And no doubt about it, we're gonna talk through a ton of those different scenarios and matchups and hypotheticals with him whenever he comes in. But we've got some Thursday games to get to. Most notably, let's start things off in the city of Arlington last night, where Arlington Bowie, one of Zach's favorite squads to kind of look at and kind of analyze a little bit, Bowie takes down Sam Houston emphatically, over 503 total yards of offense. Just an impressive day overall for Bowie and the Volunteers.
And Wolchuk Bowie's the team that really plays hard for their coach, right? Is that the team?
That was Arlington Martin last year.
Arlington Martin. Gotcha.
Yeah, the
Okay.
Warriors.
Gotcha. Very
That
good.
Warrior
it was
spirit.
the Warriors. Yeah, that's right.
It was
Yeah,
the Warrior spirit.
Good correction. Just wanted to confirm.
Arlington Bowie is just always a good run team. They just seem like they're always well coached. They're a tough out, and that's a squad that they haven't necessarily made legitimate state championship runs. But I just think year in and year out, that they're going to be a competitive football team. And you see right there, 381 yards rushing. Their defense came to play. They forced 4 turnovers. That was a game they should have won handedly. It really is the penalties that stuck out to me. Both teams very sloppy on both sides, but Arlington Bowie got the job done with Drayvon Ponder, who's one of the more fun dual-threat quarterbacks in the area, accounting for 304 total yards of offense, 3 touchdowns to get Bowie to 4-1 and 2-0 in district play.
Isn't it kind of odd seeing the fact that there's 12 penalties for 113 yards and 13 penalties for exactly 113 yards?
Hey, well,
even?
the refs kept it even, right?
I guess
you
it's
can't
a very
say there was any
evenly
bias
called
out
game.
there.
That's a fair point, but this is a Bowie squad that I know you've kind of had your finger on the pulse of. Is this like you said, this is a game they should have taken advantage of, but was it the emphatic way that they did take care of Sam Houston last night that's kind of encouraging for Bowie?
Yeah, no question. And when you look at the rest of their district, Arlington's going to be a tough team to have to mess with. Bowie versus Arlington will be interesting. And Martin, I think, has been better this year than a lot of people thought coming into the season. There were a lot of questions on Zach Mundell, but Martin has found a way to win basically every single tough game that a lot of people thought, all right, Lake Travis week 1, maybe that was a fluke. They've got some big victories under their belt now with games against Hebron to put themselves up into maybe the top of that district. So Bowie, Martin, Arlington, I think those three teams will all, that round robin, when they play face-to-face within District 4-6A, that will go a long way in determining that district. But for Bowie, I think I like their chances. Martin is a run-first team, so is Bowie. Both of them play pretty darn good defense. Martin might have the edge defensively. I think Arlington is the team that will put the most pressure because they are the best passing team of all those schools within that district. So that's what kind of sets them apart right now from the other squads.
Yeah, when you talk about playing for your coach DeArmond, that's how you pronounce his last name, right? Tough coach. He has his guys always ready to go. Another guy, Drayvon Ponder,
yeah.
Their running back. Tough inside runner. They do it all with their running game and defense. I really love the way that Bowie is playing this year, but their toughest test is next week.
No doubt. And that's a tough district. That's a 3 top-heavy teams within that district, and they're going to beat each other up. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to see how that one shakes out there.
One district that we've also kind of said, hey, it's tough top to bottom. It's kind of one of those districts where playoff spots are up for grab. Is 5A Division 1, but there's no doubt who's the front runner in that division. And last night it was shown that it was the Lone Star Rangers yet again. My goodness, Lone Star just unleashes on Wakeland. They're up 42-0 with like 2 minutes or 8 minutes or so left in the second quarter. Lone Star just comes out and takes care of business early. Marvin Mims, an unreal game, receiving-wise, over 636 yards total on offense. And out of those 636 yards, 261 went to Marvin Mims. Heck, I know you were at this game. This was unreal.
Yeah, I tell you what, I'm coining this kid, Monster Mims, Monster Marvin, however you want to put this
Monster
together.
Mims.
This
No,
kid,
that's fantastic.
Man, listen, there are a few athletes that I can tell you that I am been able to see in person that I've been as impressed with as number 18. He doesn't take any false steps. He is exploding off of the line of scrimmage, and no matter what they give him, he's running by people. You talk about that first touchdown, the 60-yarder. It was over before it started. It was done. And so not only that, the defense of Lone Star is so solid.
Better than what they were last year, which is crazy to say.
That's and like I said, that's not a stretch because, and the thing about it is also, Chuck, is that they don't blitz. I was expecting for Lone Star to do a lot of blitzing, stunning, things like that.
Are they playing a 3-3-5 stack? Is that their defense?
I'm thinking more of a 3-4.
It is?
Okay. And they cheat that linebacker up a lot.
Your boy, the 6'4", 200-pounder guy.
Torn
Pittman.
That's just a fun Swiss Army knife to have on the defensive side.
He's a different player. Our guy Ford in
he was
person.
Out there.
Oh, God.
The fact that he didn't even play against Highland Park and they went in there and got that win, I think that is the most impressive victory of the season, bar none. Here's my question for you, Heckma, because, Marvin Mims was a guy all last year. We did a good job, I think, of highlighting him. I said that he was the most underrated receiver in the area. This year he's getting a lot of accolades, which he should, the Stanford commit. But do they have those secondary options this year offensively? That's what it seems like. If Mims is to be shut down, can the Jake Bogdans and the Trace Brucklers and the Jaden Nixons step up and fill some of that void if a team wants to key on Marvin Mims and take him out of the football game?
Yeah, it's a fair question, and I think going into the playoffs, because you know that once you get to those third and fourth rounds, that teams with good defenses they're gonna key in on him. They're not gonna give him those free releases like a lot of these teams are doing. But Nixon, number 5. He's a kid that I got an opportunity to see him, and my thoughts were this is the running back because he's so elusive and he has so much speed. But Bogdan, they work like the thunder and lightning tandem that they really are. And Nixon, actually, he works a lot at wide receiver. So it was really impressive to see Frisco Lone Star's offense in person because it was eerily reminiscent of South Lake Carroll's old offense. They do a lot of stacking, a lot of trips, a lot of motion stuff. They move guys around, and it's not so much a true RPO because they really want to put you in a one-on-one situation matchup where they could take advantage of it, and they got speed at every position.
And what about the quarterback, Garrett Rangel? We've been talking about him all year.
Unbelievable.
He's been one of the biggest surprises of the season. And talk about his size as well, because I think that's something that people don't realize is how big the kid actually is.
Yeah, big kids to be a sophomore. And going back to what we always talk about on the show is how many great quarterbacks we have in this area. I saw this kid throw some fade routes and some curls they were all on the money. He doesn't miss anything to be so big. So it's not like he's a gangly. I mean, he's put together really well. And so, when a kid gets too big too fast, he's kind of gangly and all over the place. That's not Rangel. He's solid.
Yeah, and he takes care of the football as well, and that's another big thing. But when you have a guy like Marvin Mims on the outside, that connection has been unreal so far.
Yeah, Marvin Mims, I'm telling you, I looked at it last night. I went home and I said, I wanted to make sure how many stars this kid has, and I think he's a 3-star athlete. Throw the whole star system out if Marvin Mims is a 3-star guy.
Amen.
So, I mean, if he's torching teams like that. I mean, Wakeland is a playoff team. I mean, that was a playoff team last year. It's a team that's most likely going to find their way into a playoff spot again this year. And he torched them for 261 yards on 8 catches.
He's amazing.
That's unreal.
He is amazing. And the one impressive thing about him, especially in this new age of kids going to these camps and I guess wide receiver gurus and quarterback whisperers and all of that, the kid doesn't take any false steps at all. And I can't make enough about that because there's so many guys take 3 and 4 steps at the line of scrimmage and you're still waiting on them to get actually into their route. That's not Marvin Mims. He explodes off of the line of scrimmage. By the time he's in his route or he's exploding out of a route, the DB is already behind him. So, I mean, speed, explosive, and he's built like a truck. I mean, the big old legs. I mean, this kid is going to be at the next level. Stanford is getting a stud, man.
They are. No doubt. And he's a very well-spoken kid. We got to talk to him this week for just a split second. And, I mean, man, he's just as solid on the shoulders than he is on the gridiron as well. Moving on from that one, we'll talk about that a little bit later. Heckma Harrison and I have a film session that we're going to go through about that Lone Star and Wakeland game. So,
exciting.
Are you ready, Heckma? Are you ready to talk through a little bit? It's going to be some fun over the next couple of hours.
Allie here, Allie there. Your seal here, seal there. That's exciting.
Maybe. Let's look at Haltom and Weatherford. Haltom and the Buffaloes, of course, last year's darling of the 2019 season. Well, last night they got in a bit of a shootout with them Weatherford Kangaroos.
The Kangaroos.
66-52, the final in this one, over 1,100 yards, actually 1,200 yards of total offense. My goodness, this was just a back-and-forth ball game, fellas.
Yeah, anytime you get the Buffaloes and the Kangaroos together, you're down for an offensive juggernaut.
That sounds like a party.
It was a Thursday night party to remember, and the Kangaroos got the best of the Buffaloes, and the junior, Des Forrest, this guy, unbelievable, rushed for 278 yards, 4 touchdowns, also had 5 catches for over 100 yards and another touchdown, and that tells you why they scored 66 points. Their senior quarterback, Ken Seals, he's going to Vanderbilt. He threw for 369 yards, 5 touchdowns as well. And they had, like you mentioned, 695 total yards of offense for the Kangaroos. So it was a big-time victory for Weatherford. Like I said, lots of offense. They got off to a quick 14-0 lead. Haltom then responded well, scoring 21 in the first and 24 in the second. And then the third quarter was back and forth as well. And then that fourth quarter is where, once again, the Kangaroos pulled away and won 66-52. So a really fun Thursday night game out there, and Weatherford 5-1 now on the season. So it's a pretty good start for the Kangaroos. And you mentioned Haltom last year. They were the darling of the area. No more Michael Black, and you see what sort of happens.
It changes things, no doubt. And for Weatherford, that could be a playoff team coming out of that district, 3-6A. You got San Angelo Central and Euless Trinity that'll duke it out tonight. Those are probably the top 2 teams in that district. But otherwise, Richland, who knows about them? LD Bell Bell started the season strong, but they've been inconsistent. Abilene, it's a down year for the Eagles. So you look at Weatherford and their combination of having a quarterback that's going to Vanderbilt and his ability to push the ball down the field. Plus, you look at their highlights here. They're running the football over the place. It's really just their lack of defenses that's Weatherford's Achilles heel, but they can score with anyone right now in that district. So that'll be fun. That's when Weatherford and Euless Trinity match up against each other. That's a team that can go ahead and push Trinity in terms of being able to score points in bunches. And for Trinity, that's not the kind of game that they want to play.
Yeah, well, Trinity is going to definitely take that all to the test because of their defense as well. Trinity's pretty good on defense, but like you said, Weatherford's big playability at the quarterback position and running back makes them a different beast this year.
And that'll be a matchup next week. Weatherford at Euless Trinity.
That's going to be fun. And it's on the road. It's at Euless Trinity. We've talked about the atmosphere that they bring to the table with a little bit of an up-tempo offense.
Good luck to that Kangaroo defense.
That's going to be a fun game overall. And like you said, good luck to the defense on both sides, honestly. I mean, we might see another score that is maybe not this high because of the way that Trinity will slow the clock down, but something close to that overall. On our final highlighted game on Thursday that we get to go through, Northwest Eaton and Fossil Ridge. This was a good football game all the way up until the end of that one at the Keller ISD Athletic Complex. 15-7. Eaton on top, over 312 yards on offense, 275 of those on the ground. It was ground and pound attack for that Eaton squad.
No question. It was the Jabez Hawkins show for Northwest Eaton. He ran for 232 yards. He had 2 touchdowns, the only 2 scores of the night for Northwest Eaton to carry the offense. He had a 44-yard scamper in the first quarter that got the scoring started. And Fossil Ridge, who, last year they had a really good defense. They carry over a good defense. They just don't have the offense to match it. Their defense forces a big turnover in the second quarter. They're unable to cash in, and that was a killer for them. That's an opportunity you've got late in the first half. Let's try and tie this football game up, and they're unable to do so. And in the second half, Eaton's pretty much just running clock. And then you have a little bit of a controversial play. It was a 73-yard touchdown for Hawkins, but there was some people that believed his knee might have been down right around the line of scrimmage in the backfield. There was a little bit of a stack up there. He's able to bounce out of it and go run it all the way for a touchdown. But either way, big win for Northwest Eaton, and that's a team that graduated some studs. Titus Swen is a guy that we talked highly of last year. Northwest Eaton showing even when they graduate some guys, we are now developing that program where we've got kids, our freshmen and sophomores are waiting in the wings. They're starting to buy into our philosophy. Northwest Eaton, a young school, but they're proving to be year in and year out. They can be a playoff contender within that district.
Yeah, their defense is really, really good, and Oscar Moore is worth the price of admission in the back end of that defense. And they'll move him around. Every position coach, offense and defense, wants him to play because he looks like a linebacker, but he's fast enough. He's a 4.4 kid. Couldn't even practice all summer long with a broken arm. Showed up last week of summer workouts and just absolutely dominated it.
Right in your backyard.
Yeah, absolutely. So that defense and the defensive line coach Gary, he told me that this is the best defensive line he's had in a while, and they got guys on the interior and on the edge, young guys like you mentioned, a couple seniors on that defense, but a couple of young guys as well. That Northwest Eaton defense is the real deal, no question about it.
Yeah, and Jabez Haskins as well as the real Jabez Hawkins, the real deal. And Mallory Hartley got a chance to catch up with the Star Eaton tailback last night.
I'm Mallory Hartley here with Whataburger's Friday Night Stars, and I have Eaton's running back number 22, Jabez Hawkins. Now, you guys come in to Panther territory on their homecoming, and you beat them 15-7. Now, what is that feeling like?
It feels amazing. Glad we all came down here to play this game, have fun. It was a good game. Panthers did their thing, but we did our thing too, and it's just exciting.
Absolutely. So at the beginning of that fourth quarter, you had a 73-yard touchdown, but it looked like you got tackled in that backfield, but the touchdown ended up standing. What was going through your head at that moment?
What was going through my head was I just wanted to get this touchdown. I just wanted to get to like 200 yards and everything. I had to get 2 touchdowns at one game, so I was like, you know what, I'm going to make this touchdown real quick.
Good. So now this was a great win for you guys. So how long do you go on celebrating this win before thinking about the next game?
Well, after this, we celebrate for like a day, and then we go right back to work.
Awesome. So you guys can catch our show and highlights from this game on our Twitter page at Friday_Stars, or you can check out our YouTube channel. Thanks for watching.
Thanks so much, Mallory and Hawkins. The real deal last night and the big reason why Eaton came out on top. One more game to catch up to tonight. The Wiley Pirates, who looked like they were going to kind of find a little bit of footing after 2 straight wins, fell last night to Garland Lakeview Centennial. Lakeview Centennial with their second straight win, taking down Wiley 27-20, the final score in that one. Despite a late rally from the Pirates, 10 points scored in that fourth quarter, but once again, the Patriots just too much for the Pirates in this one.
97-yard kickoff return to start the game for Lakeview Centennial. And how about that? I mean, Wiley 2-4 overall, but they're 2-1 in district play, so that's really all that matters. Can you win those games within the district? And with Saxe not looking as dominant as they have been in years past, this district's wide open. So for Garland Lakeview Centennial, a huge win for them in terms of making the postseason. A win that I think before the season, not a lot of people thought they had a chance to beat Wiley. Mm-hmm. They came up in a big way, and they did it in all 3 phases with that kickoff return for a touchdown. The offense stepped up when they needed to, and their defense got some clutch stops in that fourth quarter.
Yeah, this was a back-and-forth game in a tough district that you're going to have a lot of these type of matchups. But Wiley really surprised me because, like you said, after getting 2 victories, you look like they looked like they were on a roll. Their defense was really what was getting them involved. The guys, Cortland Rusaw, they're all everything defensive lineman. He's making a big impact for them. But Kamar Wheaton, a sophomore running back, or junior running back. He's the number 1 junior running back in Texas right now. Right. Big kid. We talked to Guy Frazier about this guy. He's somebody that Guy is definitely looking at. Kid is making a huge impact for Lakeview Centennial.
Well, no doubt about it, and they get another big win in district play last night. Let's take a look at some of the rest of the Thursday scores throughout the DFW area last night. I mean, we went through some of the big ones, including Lone Star big over Wakeland and then that Wiley game. But Denton Ryan, slowly but surely, and I don't know how slow it is, they're up 68-0, and most of that came in the first half, but they're kind of on their revenge tour. Saxe, we've mentioned them just a moment ago, 45-17 winners over Garland, a pretty emphatic one there. Hey, and then the Justin Northwest Fighting Eric Chiafalos get a 41-22 win.
Always good to see. Always good to see. Eastern Hills, a powerhouse, but then my Texans got it done.
Yeah, powerhouse.
That's right. Big win.
I love that. How you sneak that in. Powerhouse.
Flower Mound Marcus continues to just rack up some W's there. They're having a nice season.
No doubt. And, I mean, Flower Mound Marcus is also another team that's kind of under the radar a little bit. And I'm sure come up district play a little bit later on, we're gonna see them quite a bit.
It's going to be
interesting. That's going to be an interesting one, to say the least. That's going to do it for Thursday night. We'll talk a little bit about that Lone Star Wakeland game a little bit later in our film room. But when we come back, we're going to talk some Friday night football. Week 6 is here from Whataburger Friday Night Stars, live from the Star in Frisco. We'll be back in just a moment.
Hi there, this is Dak Prescott. When it comes time to shop for my tailgate favorites, I go to my stores, Albertsons and Tom Thumb, where they offer fresh organics and large assortments of local produce and sell only USDA choice meats. Get 10% off of your groceries every Dallas Cowboy game. Your Cowboy Albertsons and Tom Thumb, the winning combination and the official supermarket of Dallas Cowboys.
Gear up for back to sport at Academy Sports and Outdoors.
Ashley Home Store, the #1 furniture and mattress store in America. We have all the major mattress brands at a guaranteed low price. Plus, we have furniture for every room in the house and decorator accessories to make it yours. With multiple locations, personalized service from knowledgeable associates, and convenient finance plans to fit your budget. Ashley Home Store, the official furniture store of the Dallas Cowboys. This is home.
I mean, if you haven't thought about switching to Geico, frankly, you're missing out.
The mobile app makes it easy to manage your policy, even way out here.
Your marshmallows.
Get digital ID cards, emergency roadside service, even follow. Whoa. Oops. That cheeky little thing got away from me. My bad.
Geico. It's easy to manage your policy whenever, wherever.
Can I trouble you for another marshmallow?
Get excited, Whataburger fans. Our one-of-a-kind mushroom Swiss burger is back.
And now it's an all-time favorite.
If you love mushrooms, you're going to love this burger.
The double cheese, the mushrooms was absolutely amazing.
It's a really good balance between the mushrooms and the Swiss. And that au jus sauce on top.
The creamy au jus sauce.
It really complements the mushrooms. Everything just works perfectly together.
It's just perfect. Every bite's perfect.
It's not just a mushroom Swiss burger, it's a Whataburger mushroom Swiss burger.
Whataburger Friday Night Stars back here from the Star in Frisco, Texas. Glad you're with us for week 6 of Texas high school football. Let's get into some of these Friday matchups, and we've got some juicy ones around the DFW area. And guys, man, I want to talk about this game so bad, but I know we're going to talk about it plenty here in a little bit. We've got Nick Harris and Professor Diggs we're probably both going to talk to, and then Guy Frazier's at the game, so we're going to have plenty of guys to talk about that South Lake Carroll and Denton Guyer game rather. But man, that's going to be a fun matchup overall.
Don't get those two mixed up.
No,
they do not appreciate that.
No, not at all.
Yeah, just like you always mix up Bishop Dunn and Bishop Dune.
Yeah,
both of those schools can't stand it when you do that.
They
hate it.
Let's start with Bishop Lynch and Fort Worth Nolan tonight. A TAPS matchup, and Nolan at 5-0 in the 2019 campaign so far, but Bishop Lynch kind of trying to figure some things out. They've got the 2 losses, but they've been good throughout the course of the season. Is this a Bishop Lynch squad that is worried that they're going to go back to an even 500 tonight?
No, I think Bishop Lynch is positive about this game. I mean, you're talking about the defending champs, right?
No doubt.
These guys have a state title to defend, so I'm sure that they believe in themselves. But there's a kid named Jimmy Taylor coming to town, and he is a stud. JT Money is the guy, and he has a couple guys coming with him. Brandon Chapman and Sergio Snyder are going to be about that life this evening. So I know that Bishop Lynch, and the one thing about Bishop Lynch, has been a lot of controversy in the offseason with them letting go of one coach, bringing in another. You don't do that after you win a state title. But, hey, Lynch did it successfully. They also lost a few guys. One of our guys, he went to the University of North Texas. They're stud, everything. Murphy. Yeah, it's a guy.
They got another, Fort Nolan has a safety, Jason Curl Jr., who's going to North Texas too. So we got some Mean Green commits out there.
Yeah, you have it. I wanted to plug the Mean Green right there.
Always a good thing.
But also, Lynch is going to rely heavily on Darius Boyd. They're all everything running back. This kid is really tough, and they have to get behind him to even have an opportunity in this ball game, because Jimmy Taylor is what it's all about. This kid will air it out. He will run it. He will do everything. And so this is going to be an interesting game, but this is one where I think Lynch can pull it out.
Yeah, with Bishop Lynch, you just never know. They haven't been consistent. And even last year, the fact that they made that run so deep in TAPS, I just didn't really see it coming. Defensively, they're going to need to have one of those stalwart Lynch-type defensive games, because when you look at the other side, I just think a more balanced offense for Nolan without question. Their ability to air it out and run. For me, Lynch is a very one-dimensional team in terms of their first 5 games just really being a ground and pound. They haven't really proven that they can consistently throw the football through the air. So for Bishop Lynch, I think their defense is going to have to carry them in this game if they want to hang with Nolan tonight. I don't know. You've done a lot of homework in this one. It's not a prediction game, but if you had to pick one, who you leaning with?
I'm going to go Lynch, and the reason why I'm going Lynch is because they were a team that we were down on at the end of last year, but they pulled out a state title.
It was weird.
Yeah, and they pulled out a state title, and another thing is they lost a lot of guys transferring before the season because of all the controversy, but they keep one of the stud guy.
Love the controversy.
Aiden Howard, 6'4", 275 pounds, defensive end. He's another one of those guys with a skill position number. He's number 9, but it looks like 8 or a 0 because he's so big. but the kid he's amazing. And I think that's where their strength is for Bishop Lynch is in their defense. And so that's one of the things that I'm going to rest on and say that they have an opportunity. If given the opportunity, they can get some turnovers.
And sticking with the TAPS level, moving on to Fort Worth All Saints and Prestonwood. Two teams with just one loss on the resume so far. Prestonwood at home in this one. Mm-hmm. All Saints coming off of a loss following that upset win over Parish Episcopal. Can Fort Worth All Saints kind of turn things back around here this week?
You'd like to think that they could, but you're not sure about quarterback Hamp Fay, and that was really the problem with them last week. He missed the game. The dude's been a stud all year, almost 1,000 yards passing, 10 touchdowns. He's been taking care of the football, only 1 interception as well, completes over 70% of his passes. The dude's one of the better passers in the area, and without him, All Saints really struggled last week, couldn't manufacture any points scoring. The only points they got last week was their defense getting a safety, so they struggled a lot. The backup came in there through 3 interceptions, and I know that's against Bishop Dunn, which is an extremely tough defense. Prestonwood packs quite the defense as well, though, so that's a little bit of a problem. I don't know if Hamp Fay's going to play. If he doesn't play, then I don't know how you can pick All Saints to win this game on the road against Prestonwood, who comes in. They've won 3 straight. Jacob Switzer at quarterback. He's more of a dual threat guy, and I think his first option really is pretty much to run the ball. He's got 228 yards on the ground, 6 touchdowns. His problem is through the air. He hasn't taken care of the ball all that well. He doesn't have a ton of yards. His completion percentage is pretty low, and he's had 5 interceptions to 5 touchdowns. So the passing game for Prestonwood isn't what you'd hoped it'd be, but their running game's pretty good. Randall Holmes, 7 yards a carry, 2 touchdowns on the ground. That's really what what Prestonwood wants to do. They want to run the ball. They want to slow it down, play some good defense, and their defense has been really good. They pitched a shutout last week against Houston St. Pius, only give up under 200 yards per game on the ground, and they forced 3 turnovers last week, which makes 10 turnovers for that defense through the first 5 games of the year, which is pretty dang good. But on the other side of things, the last 2 games, Prestonwood's offense has turned the ball over 9 times. So you're a defense, you're looking at yourself, you're like, dang, we forced 5 turnovers in the last 2 weeks. That's incredible. And the turnover differential is still +4. That is not what you're going for right there.
No, and look, Prestonwood with Switzer, I think there was a couple of games back where Switzer, they were pretty much in the dogfight. I'm trying to think of the game that it was. They were knotted up. It was Argyle Liberty Christian, and that was a game that we thought that Prestonwood would run away with. And Jacob Switzer then discovers that he has legs and starts running all over the place. And ever since then,
these work.
These work.
I'm going to use them.
He's been.
Hey, you know what? I got this, guys. This is mine.
And he's been depending on his legs ever since. And it's just been one of those things where he understands, hey, if the passing game isn't working, I can take off.
And they got a couple big playmakers at receiver with Wilson and Stafford. Both those guys average over 20 yards a catch. They just need to find a way to push it down to them. And I wonder, Switzer being a younger player and having, just as many interceptions as he does touchdowns this year, if it's just he doesn't have the confidence in himself yet. And you talk about a young quarterback that's kind of finding his rhythm, growing, middle of the season now in the district play. Now's the time where I think you'll start to see Switzer grow up. Let's see if tonight's the night he starts to push the ball down the field to Wilson and Stafford on the edge.
Yeah, and you mentioned Wilson and Stafford on the edge, no question, but I think if they want to really put a spark into this passing game, how about a guy like Peyton Beam? Interject him into the lineup, get him on the outside.
That kid's an absolute stud. Coram Deo transfer.
Absolutely. He's a big play guy. They need to inject him into that offense.
And
I think you'll see Switzer's number go up a little bit.
It's Taylor Beam, but that's okay.
It's Taylor Beam, and I think they've been playing him defensively this year. You see, they need to move him back to receiver.
There's beams all over the place.
So many great beams.
There's only 2 beams in a pod that we really talk about, and then there's Chris Beam, of course. He's the top beam. But one thing that's kind of not talked about in this game overall is that these 2 teams actually scrimmaged each other preseason. The one thing was that scrimmage, kind of got to throw it out a little bit because the seniors weren't involved for Prestonwood. Now, Fort Worth All Saint had their seniors, but the seniors for Prestonwood were on a senior trip that day, and so they weren't a part of the scrimmage.
Convenient.
Kind of interesting to look at, but 2 teams that are definitely familiar with each other at the TAPS level. Going back to 5A, actually 5A Division I, district we talked about earlier, Frisco Heritage taking on Independence here from the Ford Center at the Star just across the way. An independent squad that has bursted onto the scene here in 2019. 4 big wins. Now, the opponents in those wins, not necessarily the top opponents, at least overall, but this is still a team led by Coach Kyle Story that has a lot of confidence going into district play, and it's starting to ramp up with that matchup with Lone Star coming up next Thursday as well.
Yeah, Braylon Braxton is the name that you need to know because he's Mr. Do-It-All. I'm excited for this one because you got to know that if it comes down to a dogfight, Braylon Braxton is the guy that's going to run away with this game for Independence.
Absolutely. I just don't know, can Heritage find a way to slow him down? And can they go ahead? I know, they're giving or scoring 46 points a game. I don't know that Independence defense is probably the best they're going to play so far in this young season. And that's another district. You've got 3 schools that are kind of top heavy in that district: the Lone Star, Independence, and then the Colony Cougars, who are still undefeated this year. I think the top 2 teams are the Colony and Lone Star, and then you've got Independence, but Braylon Braxton is an absolute phenom.
The Colony, your surprise team this year, correct?
No one's talking about him, sir.
Gotcha.
Nobody's talking about the Colony.
Nobody's talking about Miles Price and Mikey Harrington. Who would? Please continue, Kyle. Go ahead.
Zach just looks so
it's
done.
His unbothered face.
He looks so doomed
my,
right now.
Unbothered face, without question. I'm so doomed with these guys.
Oh, man. Let's stick with
let's go Cougars.
Let's stick with the 5A level, going to 7-5A. Frisco Lebanon Trail taking on Lovejoy. Lebanon Trail with a win over Memorial in a close, hard-fought game last week here at the Ford Center. But they're taking on Lovejoy today in a matchup that could mean a little bit more so in terms of playoff scenarios. Now, we're going to talk to Professor Diggs about that a little bit later, but this is a big game overall between these two squads.
Yeah, it is. And for Lovejoy, they're also coming off a hard-fought triple overtime game against Stenton Braswell. R.W. Rucker is their guy. Their quarterback leads the team not only as their passer but as a rusher, 522 yards on the ground this year. He's an absolute stud. But Drew Martin is also very good, the quarterback for Frisco Lebanon Trail. Over 1,000 yards, 13 touchdowns, but the big stat, no interceptions this year. He has taken care of the football. He also leads the team in rushing with over 360 yards. And he's got a pretty solid running back, Princeton Parker. I think when you look at it, Lebanon Trail is the more balanced offense, but Lovejoy, this is going to be a close game. R.W. Rucker is really a special player in the area for the Lovejoy Leopards, and I don't know that Lebanon Trail has an answer for him defensively. That's certainly been a weakness. Their defense has given up 37 or more points in the last 3 games, including 76 points to Frisco High just 2 weeks ago. So if Lebanon Trail can have any kind of defense to complement a really electrifying offense, they could be a solid team. I just think Lovejoy and R.W. Rucker, I don't see Lebanon Trail having an answer for that offensive attack.
Highest scoring game of the night? Over, under, maybe 70? 71 and a half?
That's a high bar there.
I'm going under.
I'm going over.
I think an over-under, let's say 60.
Yeah, I would say over on that. I would take the over on that. I think 70 total. I mean, that's it's
going to be a high-scoring affair, no doubt. This will be a fun game.
I think this is going to be back and forth, and this could be a chance for Lebanon Trail to kind of establish themselves in that district with another win, 2 in a row. And then, like you said, Drew Martin at quarterback's been solid for the Trailblazers so far.
Yeah, this is a desperation game for both those teams. Lovejoy 0-2 within district. Lebanon Trail, I believe, 1-2. So they both need it if they want to make a push for one of those top 4 postseasons.
It's a good little experiment to find out how much does it take out of you when you play 3 overtimes the week before. What kind of effect does that have on Lovejoy tonight? That'll be something to watch for as well, because triple overtime games are pretty stinking rare around here.
Yeah, Chuck, I wanted to ask you, man, are you surprised by the 2-2 start for Lovejoy?
A little bit. I thought Lovejoy would be a little bit better this year, and I liked Rucker. I know that they did graduate some solid pieces, but defensively, I'm a little surprised at how much they've struggled this year. But I think overall, this district is just more competitive than I anticipated coming into the season. Frisco Lebanon Trail is a school that I think a lot of people just look over. You see them come up on your schedule. You say, oh, they're playing a Lovejoy team. I think Lovejoy is a program that's on the up. I think they should easily beat a team like Lebanon Trail, but they're going to give them everything they can tonight. All in all, I think this district is the surprising thing in a positive way. I think it's just a better all-around district from top to bottom.
Week 6 here of Texas high school football, and there's plenty of rivalries to talk about when we come back here from the Star in Frisco. We're going to talk about some rivalries with Nick Harris from the Old Coach joining us in studio when we return on Whataburger Friday Night Stars.
we embrace it, letting it fuel our passions, pushing us deeper than we thought possible and keeping us curious. It sets us apart from the herd. It's how we come up with the ideas that make people say, why didn't I think of that? See, when you nurture the creativity and passion that's in all of us, you'll learn nothing is out of reach.
Get excited, Whataburger fans. Our one-of-a-kind mushroom Swiss burger is back.
And now it's an all-time favorite.
If you love mushrooms, you're going to love this burger.
The double cheese, the mushrooms was absolutely amazing.
It's a really good balance between the mushrooms and the Swiss, and that au jus sauce on top.
The creamy au jus sauce.
It really complements the mushrooms. Everything just works perfectly together.
It's just perfect. Every bite's perfect.
It's not just a mushroom Swiss burger, it's a Whataburger mushroom Swiss burger.
Hey, I'm Jack. We started SeatGeek because we want fans to have a better, more transparent ticket buying experience. With SeatGeek, you can see the best deals and buy tickets, all with a price match guarantee. The only thing we can't guarantee is that your team will win. So use the code TICKETS20 at checkout for $20 off your first order.
One and only Arnold Schwarzenegger.
I ate a lot of meat. They showed us commercials. Steak. That's what a man eats. Selling that idea that real men eat meat. Serious man food. But you got to understand, that's marketing. That's not based on reality.
I've been teaching fighting techniques to government agencies for more than 15 years. Then I got injured. Unable to teach for at least 6 months, I spent more than 1,000 hours studying science on recovery and nutrition, and stumbled across a study about the Roman gladiators.
The gladiators were predominantly vegetarian.
How could the original professional fighters be so powerful, eating only plants?
When I made the switch to a plant-based diet, I qualified for my 3rd Olympic team. I broke 2 American records. I was like, man, I should have done this a long while ago.
When I went plant-based, I wasn't sure if I was going to survive. And I actually became like a machine.
One of the biggest misconceptions in sports nutrition is that we have to have animal protein to perform at a high level. That's just not true.
Sometimes you have to do things that you know your competitors aren't doing.
Today's blood and yesterday's blood.
So, I think this is going to wake a lot of people up.
I was recovering better, not getting as sore. This was our best season in the last 15 years, and we had 14 guys on plant-based diets.
We all want to feel great, have more energy.
Cholesterol was 276. Today, 169.
Whoa, now you're talking.
Most guys my age can keep up with the grandchildren. My grandchildren can't keep up with me.
It's not one set of dietary guidelines for improving your performance as an athlete, another one for reversing heart disease, reversing diabetes. It's the same for all of them.
Someone asked me, how could you get as strong as an ox without eating any meat? And my answer was, have you ever seen an ox eating meat?
Outside the Star in Frisco, home to the Dallas Cowboys world headquarters here in the beautiful Star. Back for Whataburger Friday Night Stars Week 6 and back in studio. Nick Harris from the Old Coach joining us for the Old Coach look around the state. And Nick, glad to have you back. Didn't have you last week, but you had quite the game that you were out looking at with Rockwall and Longview last week. That ended up being a Longview takedown. We'll stay away from that. We might talk about that Rockwall team and how they rebound here in a moment. But you were at a pretty good ball game last night in the Houston area. Tell us a little bit about that Katy Tompkins matchup.
Yeah, if we're talking about 6A, the last few weeks, most of the talk has been about how Katy's possibly the best team in the state right now in 6A, and a lot of vulnerabilities got shown in that offense and defense last night for Katy. I mean, their defense hasn't given up more than 21 this year, I believe. It was to North Shore, and Katy Tompkins, they came out and they just dominated the time of possession the entire game and kept the ball out of the offense's hands, and they were able to score 35 only on a couple of fluke special teams and defensive plays, and so the Katy offense wasn't able to, be the Katy offense and run the ball like they wanted because Tompkins was just taking over the game. They have a running back, R.J. Smith, really underlooked kid. I'm actually typing up an article next week about some underlooked recruits, and he's going to be top 5 on that article just because he was able to take over that game single-handedly. And as a kid in that sort of game, that's huge. And then they had a furious comeback. They were down 35-10 in the third quarter, and they just needed 2 more minutes, and they probably could have pulled that one out, but they ended up falling 35-30 to Katy.
Yeah, and an unbelievable game in the Houston ranks, and then you turn around and you're going to be at a great one tonight, South Lake Carroll and Geyer. We'll stay away from that one for a split second, but talking about that Rockwall team that you saw last week, they're going to look to rebound against Mesquite Horn tonight, and this is a Rockwall squad that we've talked about. Jackson Smith-Jiba, the top wideout in the entire area. He's not available tonight. This is a squad with Braden Locke and company that are going to have to look to rebound against a good Horn squad without their top target to go to.
Yeah, absolutely. And Horn is not your average 2-3 team. They're starting to schedule some really tough non-district games. I think last year they started, I believe it was 0-6 or 0-7 before they ended up making it 3 rounds deep into the playoffs just because their non-district schedule was so tough. I believe this year they had John Tyler, Highland Park, and a couple of other really good 6A teams. And so they're not your 2-3 team that they need to take as a 2-3 team. And this is a huge game for Rockwall to be able to prove that they can win without Jackson Smith and that they can at least score a touchdown without Jackson Smith because they weren't able to do that last week.
Yeah. What did their offense look like? So Jiba goes down early in that game, and he's probably going to be out a few weeks, Coach Webb said this week to reporters. So, we got to see Rockwall and how they would kind of adjust for the majority of that game against Longview. Now, certainly there's a drop-off between Longview and Horn. Longview is one of the best teams in the state. Not to discredit Mesquite Horn. I agree with you. They're a talented football team in their own right, especially running the football. They can run it as good as anybody. But what'd you kind of see game plan-wise for Rockwall against Longview, and then now given a full week to prepare without Jackson Smith, what do you think their game plan might be tonight against Horn?
I mean, obviously the vulnerability that was shown is that they only have one receiver that Braden Locke likes throwing to, and now he's going to have to figure out how to get some of the other guys involved. J.J. Williams is another really great receiver for Rockwall. I could expect him having a huge night tonight. If we had Texas High School Football Fantasy Football, he'd be like my first pick this week just because he's going to get all of Jackson's production this week.
PPR, non-PPR?
Oh, PPR all the way.
You got to play PPR.
But J.J. Williams, I see him having a big night as long as he can connect with Braden Locke. And this is just a huge game for Braden Locke, sophomore, and he's facing some adversity here early in the season. Or I guess it's not early anymore, it seems like it, but early in district play, this will be a huge proving game for them. And if they can come out with the 45, 52 points that they're accustomed to producing, then I wouldn't be surprised if Rockwall ends up, at least getting second in this district.
Yeah, that's a big drop off from JJ to Jackson Smith, right?
Absolutely.
And so that's a lot of pressure to put on one guy, but at the same time, Braden Locke has done it all year, and it hadn't just been Jackson Smith. So do you, from last week, obviously there had to have been a tremendous letdown once their number one guy goes down on the first play from scrimmage, I believe that was, right?
So yeah, he took a hit across the middle, and he tried to come in for like 3 or 4 more plays, but by the time he had come back in, it was 21-0, and they're like, let's just keep you out.
Yeah,
we don't know what's wrong yet.
All of the air probably was sucked out of the building for those guys, specifically because they know, hey, my number one guy is down, and we're playing against those guys, right? Yeah. But coming into a game like tonight, you know that Braden Locke has not everything riding on it, but everybody wants to see what he looks like without Jackson Smith. What are your predictions for him tonight versus Horn?
I think he has a really good. Game tonight, but I think the most important part of this offense tonight is getting Zach Henry going, the running back, their senior running back. If you remember a couple years ago when they knocked off the Woodlands in round 1, it was super windy. They couldn't throw the ball for anything, and Zach Henry rushed for about 150 yards, and he was just stepping in because the starter was suspended. And since then, he has been a fantastic running back for Rockwall, and he's kind of had a slow start, battled some injuries here early in this season and his senior season. But it's so important for him to get going tonight because they have to get that running game open to open up the passing game for J.J. Williams and Braden Locke.
Sticking with 6A, another big one in 8-6A. Skyline on the road against Duncanville. This is a Skyline squad that started the season off on the right foot, but it has kind of stumbled a little
little bit since then. There's been no such stumbling, though, for the Duncanville Panthers. Is this another statement game for Duncanville in that district?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And you add on the fact that it's Reginald Sample's former team, and so he's always going to have something to prove against Skyline. But, I mean, this Duncanville defense, it's hard to say that they were better than they were last year in a way, but it's looking like that. You see 5 points allowed on the season on average. I mean, this defense is just fantastic. And then you have your offensive weapons like Jaquindon Jackson, and someone who's really stepped up for Duncanville on the offensive side this year is Roderick Daniels at a wide receiver. He's going to be on that article I'm typing up next week, too, just because he's had a fantastic season, and he's been so important for that offense this year.
Yeah, Roderick Daniels has been that guy for Duncanville. Big play when everything you look for in Jaquindon Jackson, he's actually taking a lot of that pressure off of Jaquindon to be that playmaker. But because you're covering both North Texas and Houston, you're kind of a traitor here, man, because you're going, you're spying.
It's all in the state.
He's spying on both.
Here,
come on, I'm just trying to say this guy, he's talking about Katie, okay? And so, but the thing is, even when you do a comparison, because you have the eyeball test for talent, you understand as far as the physicality for what they're bringing at 6A in Houston and what you're seeing up here. How does it match up at this point in the season?
At this point in the season, after seeing Katy last night and a lot of their vulnerabilities getting exposed last night, and their quarterback got in some trouble last night as well. He's going to be out for a couple of weeks. And so this Katy team has a lot of things that they're battling right now. And so if I were to put out rankings next week, I would put out Duncanville number 1, assuming that they have another statement win here tonight. Duncanville, seeing them a couple of weeks ago against the national power St. John's, and they had a slow first half, second half came out and was dominating, and so and they've been able to keep that up every week, and I expect them to do the same tonight. And if they do, then Duncanville 1, Katy 2.
Where is Galena Park North Shore in that conversation?
Yeah,
right
exactly.
now?
And it's kind of tough to bring their name back up, but I mean they're still top 5. They're still a top 5 team in the state in 6A, and you can't ever discredit them. I mean they had the week 1 loss, and they had a lot of stuff going on in the locker room during that week 1 loss, and to even come that close against Katy with what they were battling is an accomplishment in itself. But they're starting to pick up the gears again, and Zach Evans is back in that offense, and they're rolling with gas now. So I'm curious to see what they do down the stretch in district, and then first couple rounds in playoffs to see what kind of team they are this year.
You're going to be in quite the environment tonight in Denton, but I want to go back to last week one more time. Longview, what was that Lobos fandom? What was that whole environment like?
Best home advantage in the state.
Man, I love it. I love it at Lobos Stadium. It's just, I grew up in the Rockwell ISD system, so I've made many trips out there, and every time I go, man, those fans just show out. It's the only high school in that little area of Longview, and there's only 2 6A teams in East Texas, and Longview obviously being the better one than Tyler Lee, and it's just a lot of people in East Texas come out for a Longview game, and I love the culture down there for sure.
It's going to be a fun one tonight. The atmosphere is going to be wild, and we may have to get your pick on this one. Who you got real quick, Southlake or Geyer?
I got Geyer very close, only because Southlake Carroll, they're going to be without their leading rushers tonight, 2 of them, and it's going to be really tough for them to get the running game going with a sophomore quarterback. I can't take them right
Nick,
now.
why did you say that? Because he was going to pick Carroll.
I was going to before the injuries as well.
That was rough.
No, we know Walsh
Geyer Homer was going to go with Carroll.
Yeah, you're going to go with Carroll.
Geyer loves Walsh and his cookies. There's no way he's going to be his guy.
Nick Harris from the Old Coach joining us here on Whataburger Friday Night Stars. Nick, always a pleasure to have you, and we look forward to having you again soon, man.
Appreciate it, man.
Sounds good. When we come back here on Whataburger Friday Night Stars, we'll keep rolling through some of the Friday matchups. It's week 6 of the Texas high school football season, live from the Star in Frisco.
Hey, I'm Jack. We started SeatGeek because we want fans to have a better, more transparent ticket buying experience. With SeatGeek, you can see the best deals and buy tickets, all with a price match guarantee. The only thing we can't guarantee is that your team will win. So use the code TICKETS20 at checkout for $20 off your first order.
Get excited, Whataburger fans. Our one-of-a-kind mushroom Swiss burger is back.
And now it's an all-time favorite.
If you love mushrooms, you're going to love this burger.
The double cheese, the mushrooms was absolutely amazing.
It's a really good balance between the mushrooms and the Swiss. And that au jus sauce on top.
The creamy au jus sauce.
It really complements the mushrooms. Everything just works perfectly together.
It's just perfect. Every bite's perfect.
It's not just a mushroom Swiss burger, it's a Whataburger mushroom Swiss burger.
It's in all of us, and we won't hold it back. Not one little bit. Nope, we embrace it, letting it fuel our passions, pushing us deeper than we thought possible and keeping us curious. It's what sets us apart from the herd. It's how we come up with the ideas that make people say, why didn't I think of that? See, when you nurture the creativity and passion that's in all of us, you'll learn nothing is out of reach.
It's game day. A day that should be spent in the living room, not the kitchen. So next game, you just worry about the score, because we've got the food covered. With hand-battered, cooked-to-order, always fresh, never, ever frozen chicken fingers, craveable cane sauce, crispy crinkle-cut fries, and jugs of freshly made tea and lemonade. Raising Cane's Chicken Fingers, one love.
Go Cowboys!
I won it.
I can't believe it. That car brought his karaoke machine.
Nothing but a heartache.
No, I can't believe how easy it was to save hundreds of dollars on my car insurance with Geico.
Tell me why I never wanted you to say.
Go, Kevin. Go, Kevin. No.
Believe it, Geico could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Oh, it's a perfect week for Texas high school football, live from the home of the Dallas Cowboys in the world headquarters for the 5-time Super Bowl champions.
Just love seeing those Lombardis.
Isn't it great? There should be a sixth one up there. Maybe next season, whenever we're doing Whataburger Friday Night Stars, there will be a sixth one on that shot.
There should be.
That'd be fun.
I'm in agreement.
Let's do it.
So are the Saints. Continue.
We should just remove him.
Yeah,
from
that
this,
might be it. Yeah, that might be it.
This guy over here.
Yeah, goodbye,
The
Eric.
Dolphins fan who's destined for the number one overall pick.
Hey, I'm excited about
Have fun
it,
with Tua, baby.
Oh, I'm going to have a blast.
Oh, tanking for Tua. Hour
He's
number
gonna
2.
stink, too.
Here of Whataburger Friday Night Stars.
In more ways than one.
Zach Wolchuk, Heckma Harrison, and then Eric Chiafalo here with Whataburger Friday Night Stars. Week 6, let's go back into some of those Friday matchups. And we mentioned some rivalries earlier. 2 big ones tonight, starting with Grapevine and Birdville. This was a 24-20 game last year that Birdville came out on top in. And, well, this year, Grapevine looking for a little bit of revenge against a Birdville squad that's already been taken down twice here in 2019. Can the Mustangs get the job done tonight, boys?
Oh. Big time matchup there.
Oh, absolutely,
in 4-5A.
man. Yeah, Grapevine is looking to get some get back. All right, this year from last.
Ooh, I love the get back.
A little get back. But guys, in Stone Earl I trust.
Yep.
Let's just start there. All right.
I think that's a fair statement.
Hey, you're going to have to, because where's Ladarius Mixon?
He's missed the last
we've been
two.
trying to find
time
him. I mean, this
tonight.
is a Finding Nemo moment right now, because I will tell you, this is what's going to make this game a different game is if Ladarius Mixon plays, because the team in general over the last couple of weeks without Mixon, you hadn't seen those gaudy numbers from Birdville. Last year, they were just blowing guys out, and they were putting up stupid numbers. But this year, man, without Mixon and Earl together, it's just been it's come to a crawl. But I got to say this about Grapevine. Grapevine has found their rhythm with Caleb Tejada. Guy Frazier did an interview with this kid. He's very energetic guy. I love this kid.
And
love the way he plays.
it runs in the family with Tejadas, right? Isn't that what Guy Frazier
It's a few
said?
of them.
There's like 100 Tejadas dominating football like all over the country.
I was a jury duty
at every
so
level.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. He wasn't here that
the
day.
Tejadas are a big-time football family.
Yeah, so I'm looking at Grapevine, and I think that because this is a district rival and you got to know that these guys are going to play each other pretty tough, it's going to come down to what it always comes down to, getting the stop. And Birdville has a couple of returning seniors, linebacker Nick Martinez and Hosea Armstrong. And these guys can make an impact for Birdville, but it's going to come down to something. And Grapevine, when you look at strength of schedule for both of these teams, I think that Grapevine has played the easier schedule up until this point. And so, like I said, in Stone Earl I trust. At this point, I'm just thinking that Stone is going to be the difference in this game.
I'm with you.
We were just talking about Weatherford, right? And Birdville played Weatherford really tough. Lost that one by a point, 33-32. And while, losing Ladarius Mixon's huge, he didn't play last week. They still put up 74 points. Granted, it was against R.L. Turner. But anytime you can put up 74 points, that is impressive.
Points.
Well, and they did it early in that game, too. I believe the majority of the 74 points came in the first three quarters.
And I think they've got really good receiver depth there for Birdville. So, too. So for Stone Earl, he's got a plethora of guys he can throw the football to. For Grapevine, they're going to need to come up with some defensive plays tonight, and that will be the question. Maybe even some special teams. We've seen in several games this year, whether it was Hebron and Arlington Martin, but special teams has been a factor. That tonight could be something for Grapevine. They're going to need a big play, whether it's a block punt, field goal, kick return, something to kind of turn momentum if they want to keep pace with that Birdville offense.
And you mentioned that Hebron squad. They're in a bit of a heated rivalry tonight with the Coppell team that we've talked about already this year, and taking Allen to the wire, losing by a single score. The Coppell Cowboys looking to defend home field at Buddy Eccles Field against that Hebron squad tonight. Another big 6A matchup in 6A, but is there an opportunity here for Coppell to kind of make a statement against Hebron?
I think it's a statement win for Coppell if they can pull it off. Now, they've had the tougher schedule. You mentioned it with Allen and Saxe. Hebron hasn't had quite that tough of a schedule. And you mentioned it just a second ago, Walchuk, with that crazy special teams outing against Arlington Martin.
Weird game.
It was a very weird game, and it was probably the oddest game any of us have seen in a long time. And that's the only loss that Hebron has suffered this season. And they have a three-headed monster when it comes to rushing the football, and it starts with sophomore running back Isaiah Broadway. We heard about him last year when he was just a freshman. This year he's really stormed onto the scene, almost 400 yards on the ground, 3 scores. But their senior quarterback, Carson Harris, he's a really good dual-threat guy, mostly a runner, and he's their second leading rusher on the team, almost 300 yards and 3 scores already. He also has thrown for 6 touchdown passes and 0 interceptions. So he's lethal on the ground, and he takes care of the football. And then Jalen Lott, another guy, big play guy. He's got 5 touchdowns on the ground already this year. So those guys are going to be tough to stop for Coppell. It's a young defense for Coppell. We've talked about it all season long. Only 2 starters returning. Granted, they are 2 studs, one at the linebacker position, one on the defensive line. But other than that, this Coppell defense is extremely young. And on the flip side, Hebron's defense, man, they give up under 250 yards a game, under 20 points a game, and they forced at least 1 turnover in every single game this season. They got studs across the board, but at linebacker, Carter Norrie, and at safety, Darius Snow, both of those
Snow's
2 guys.
The best defensive player in this game.
That's it.
No question. Yeah, I mean, that dude's an absolute beast. So I think Hebron is the better team in this game. Coppell gets the advantage because they are at home. And credit to them because it seems like maybe they've settled in on Kevin Schumann. They've gone back and forth with the junior Ryan Walker and the senior Kevin Schumann. But Schumann last week had his best game of the year, over 200 yards total and 5 touchdowns. And he can run the ball as well. So he's a threat that way.
And he was a guy that, while at Highland Park is kind of an up-and-comer, was somebody that people were comparing to a young Matt Stafford. I mean, he's had the skill set and he's had the ability, but he hasn't necessarily put it together. Maybe this is starting to see that. And like you mentioned this earlier, Zach, talking about how those young quarterbacks in new situations start to find their confidence in these middle weeks of the season. That's going to be something interesting to look for in this Coppell squad, especially tonight, and what could be a very important game in 6A. Going to Keller, talking about Keller, Timber Creek, and Keller and the Indians, 5-6A in the Indians of Keller, 2-2 on the season, taking on the Falcons. What do you guys think about this matchup overall?
Well, with Keller, and Chobo, baby.
They
got to run that football with Mr. Nchobo, and they're coming off. They played Carroll close for the first half, you could say, and then eventually the Dragons just pulled away. But this is a big bounce-back game for Keller. Obviously, a rivalry game between them and Timber Creek. So for Timber Creek, can they slow down the vaunted rushing attack of the Keller Indians? And I think it'll be fun to kind of see Timber Creek along with Fossil Ridge. Those are 2 teams that they've had up and down journeys. Keller Fossil Ridge certainly a better defensive team than Timber Creek is. I just don't know. Timber Creek's offense has really, really struggled this year. And you look at Keller, a team that, their passing attack hasn't been as good as it was a year ago. But I just think Keller should be able to feast with their run game tonight against a Timber Creek team that's really wounded on the defensive side of the football.
It's interesting about Keller because they depend so much on that run game. And I found out this week, both of their tackles, their starting tackles left and right, are 210 pounds or less. When you think
they
about,
can get out and move.
They can get out and move. They are athletic, but it is just funny to think about an offensive lineman who is under 250 pounds in this day and age is a little bit surprising. And Keller has two of them at the tackle position. Their guards are really big, which is good for them. And you said they probably depend on that athleticism of their tackles quite a bit. But it's just funny to see two starting tackles at this level of football here in Texas, and they're under 220 pounds.
Yeah, they're cutting guys. All right, so they're taking you out at the knees at the tackle position.
That's
and
right.
they want to get you down on the ground. And Nchobo is a bruising runner. He's a guy that we talked about at length last year because of all the yards that he was putting up. It's great game, like you said, a rivalry game, but I don't see Keller having a problem with Central in this one.
It's going to be an Nchobo party, and I just love his running style. And just no nonsense, north and south runner between the tackles. I love the way he's built, low center of gravity, real bowling ball kind of runner. And for Keller, I just think that everything, you look at the matchups, you just kind of check the box for the Indians in this one.
There ain't no party like an Nchobo party,
No,
right?
sir. I love that.
Tell that to the Buffaloes and the Kangaroos.
Yeah, that's fair. That's a pretty fun one. Yeah.
Or the Hutto Hippos.
That's right.
I do love that.
Let's take a trip up 75. Sherman taking on Mesquite Poteet, 7-5A Division I matchup. The Sherman Bearcats 3-2 on the season, have yet to go into their bye week just yet. Taking on a Poteet squad that's been reeling, especially on that defensive side over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, and that's something for Poteet. They've had a lot of athletes come through there defensively. They pride themselves in a program that's probably been, with head coach Cody Groves moving on to be AD. They've been very disappointing this year, and they had an interesting situation going on with their outstanding running back, Seth McGowan. No one really knows what was going on there, the Oklahoma commit, but they had their first win last week over a pretty stingy Tyler Lee squad.
Is McGowan back?
Yeah, he had
McGowan's
175 yards last week, and so that's why they're...
Sounds like he's back.
He's back, and he's back in a big way for district play against Sherman here tonight.
How's Finky? How's my boy Fink doing?
Fink's doing all right. Fink 20 of 42 this year, 458 yards.
Finkalicious.
The issue is, he does have 3 interceptions, 5 touchdowns. They haven't been throwing the football a ton, so it is the Seth McGowan-led offense without question for Poteet. For Sherman, on the other hand, you're going to have another running back duel there. You got Mike Brown,
Mike
your guy.
Tavian Brown.
It's Mike Brown. I'm going with Mike.
Mike Tavian.
I'm going with Mike and Benji Omeyebu.
Say that again.
Benji Omeyebu.
Okay.
Benji and Mike. So the tandem of Benji and Mike for Sherman versus the one-man wrecking crew. That is Seth McGowan. Which running back wants it more? Who can run the football with more consistency? Which front seven wants to dig into the trenches and play some smash mouth defense? I'm not really trusting that Poteet defense. I lean towards Sherman defensively in that game, but I do trust Seth McGowan, and I'd bet all my money on him tonight.
Wow. That got really intense really quickly, and I love it.
That was remarkable.
Awesome. We're done with that game. Moving on to Rowlett and South Garland.
You don't want to hear about Tate Bethel? Come on.
No,
I was going to ask about my boy Bethel, but you really
Bethel
put
too.
a nice exclamation point on
That's
that.
fine. Let's keep it rolling.
Rowlett and the Eagles taking on South Garland, and these are two squads kind of in the same situation. Not a ton of offense.
Yeah, I was really thankful when Walchuk gave me this game this week.
I should just give Heckmall 10-6A. He appreciates this district.
I just wasn't sure if South Lake and Geyer was the game of the week or if it was Rowlett and South Garland.
I would lean towards Rowlett South Garland.
It kept me up almost every single night this week. I didn't sleep much, but I'm thankful for this game, and I appreciate you, Zach Walchuk, for giving it to me. Listen, Rowlett, last week they beat North Garland. It was a last-second victory. They win 27-26. Antonio Hull, who is the playmaker for this Rowlett offense, minus their quarterback, Alex Rout, who really is Mr. Everything for them. But Hull caught the game-winning 43-yard pass last week. It's now their third, or they're looking for their third straight victory. Rowlett is after starting 0-3 in non-district. But Alex Rout offensively, my goodness, this dude's accounted for well over 1,000 yards through the air and on the ground, and a total of 9 touchdowns. Now, he does have the 4 interceptions, so he takes some chances, but he pushes the ball downfield, and you have to have love for that. On the flip side, South Garland, my gosh, they only put up 109 yards total last week against Lakeview Centennial. The 109 yards resulted in 3 points, and their really only offensive weapon is Jaleel Brown. He's everything for them. He has almost 800 yards on the ground, 4 touchdowns, 11 yards per carry, but through the air, they almost get nothing done. And their point differential, you know how much I care about point differential at this point in the season, fellas? minus 122.
At this point in the season, you're telling me week 1 about the point difference.
Yeah, that's true. We were all knotted up at zeros, and it was still a topic.
You know
of
what? I
discussion.
think the point differential is big in this
It's going to
one.
be huge in this one, fellas. So, yeah, I don't think South Garland has the defense to keep up with Route and Hull. That combo is pretty deadly.
And talking about deadly, how about the run attack of Euless Trinity? 5-0 on the year. San Angelo Central coming in to Euless and Pennington Field. This is going to be a fun matchup overall. San Angelo Central can put up some points, 39 points per game on the Bobcat side of things, but Trinity in that running game is going to be tough to stop, man.
They had 4 different running backs go for at least 69 yards on the ground or more last week, which is very nice, and they all 4 reached the end zone.
Yeah, wow. I tell you what, trying to do some research on San Angelo is really difficult because they don't post a lot of their numbers.
Darn it.
So you got to do some real research. You got to dig in the crates, and I had to do that this week. But they have a guy named Malachi Brown, quarterback for San Angelo.
Malachi.
Well, I call him Malachi.
Yeah, well, done, tomato, tomato.
Malachi. I call him Malachi
Brown.
My man Malachi. Malachi Brown. Hey, my man Malachi is the truth, all right? And he's going to air it out, and that's the way that they want to play. But the truth of the matter is they're playing the wrong team for that air attack. It's not going. If they go 3 and out on any series, they may not make get on the field again.
And it was a game last year. I thought it would be a tough trip for Trinity going all the way to San Angelo Central, and they answered that call. So now having them travel to Euless Trinity, that is going to be a challenge. But again, now you'll have back-to-back weeks where Trinity is playing teams that want to throw the ball, they want to play that up-tempo offense, whether it's San Angelo Central this week or Weatherford next week. 2 good challenges for Euless Trinity moving forward.
Yeah, and I think the big thing for Trinity is that their offense isn't probably quite as explosive as it was last year, but it is still extremely efficient. And then defensively, they're only giving up 13 points per game. They've been a lot better than what they were last year.
But Euless Trinity also, when they break the offensive huddle, they should just come to the line of scrimmage and just tell you.
We're coming right here,
Holy
off the guard's rear end, big boy.
We're running the ball. And
you know what's happening. 11 midline, left and right.
And it's not going to be a fun game. San Angelo Central, they're going to want to air it out. And if they have any success, because size-wise, they match up.
It's a good program. They've been good for years.
Definitely.
I'm not even sure if Malachi or Malachi played.
Malachi. No, hey guys, funny
even
story.
Played last year in the game.
Malake.
No. I have a friend, same spelling, and he will not let you call him Malachi. It's Malachi.
Malachi.
All
right.
Well, at least you've got a reason for if they win tonight, somehow, some way, we know who we'd like to have the post-game interview be.
Yeah, Malachi.
It's Malachi.
Yeah.
Whatever. Malachi Malachi. That's going to be an all-time favorite for me, I think, over this course of this show's history. Let's go to Midlothian and Aledo tonight. This is going to be a fun one. Lincoln Reville will be out at this one. Midlothian putting up some pretty good numbers defensively. Only 11 points per game allowed on that side of the football. They've given up a $187 defensively on average, yardage wise. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, Aledo's probably not going to be held to a $187 tonight.
No.
But this is going to be a fun football game.
Yeah, Midlothian, they lost their first game last week, and the defense, as you talked about, they've been dominant all year, and they were last week. They only gave up 7 points and 157 total yards. It was actually 2 costly fumbles from the offense that got returned for touchdowns that really allowed for them to lose to Burleson Centennial by only 2 points last week. Now, Midlothian runs the ball extremely well. They have 4 guys with at least 200 or more rushing yards, and it starts with their quarterback, Tate Corbin. JT Cavender had 2 touchdowns last week, Ethan Hill, and then the big man, Lane Martin, who's cut from the Kedrick Cobb sort of line of cloth there. Yeah, the dude, he's a fullback. He's a man-beast. He's a tough runner. So we know Midlothian, that's exactly what they want to do. Aledo, we've seen them at least week 1 against Geyer, and I know Geyer's a different beast than Midlothian, but that's what Geyer struggled with, Aledo struggled with in week 1 against Geyer, which was stopping that run, and that's what Midlothian is going to want to do. But on the flip side, man, my goodness, Aledo, since that loss to Geyer week 1, they've outscored their opponents 168-43, and they have scored at least 60 points in all but 1 game. So this will be a huge test for that Midlothian defense that's been stellar all year. But Aledo, they're the top-ranked team in 5A Division II, and their point differential is plus 122 as well. So they're dominating these teams. The only question is Jace McClellan, the running back, who is the OU commit, absolute stud. He's got a knee issue. So now JoJo Earl, the junior receiver who is dynamic as it gets, is now going to running back. He's playing in the backfield. So you don't imagine they skip too much of a beat with JoJo Earl going back there, because the dude is an absolute stud. And when you talk about speed, Earl is one of the first guys in the area that comes to mind when you're talking about speed. Legit 4.3, 4.4 speed out there. So, but it is going to change the offense up a little bit. You lose a dynamic playmaker in Jace McClellan, you just don't get better. So, but when you have Jake Bishop at the helm running the quarterback spot, you got to feel good about it. And they have now, Aledo has won 85 straight district games in a row, looking for 86.
And they don't lose at home. You talk about home field advantages. Highland Park, we saw go home. They don't lose often at home. Now, Denton Guyer, that week 1 game, that's a defense for Aledo. They got embarrassed versus Denton Guyer. They've certainly cleaned stuff up. Tonight, offensively, that rushing attack, though, for Midlothian, I'm surprised you didn't go to point differential there.
He didn't.
It actually favors Midlothian.
I said Aledo plus 122, and I didn't mention Midlothian's, which is plus 152. So thank you, Zach Wolchuk.
It's just solid 30 points difference.
It's a good stat
Here's another thing about Aledo. After that week 1 loss, it seemed like everybody just jumped off the train all at once.
Yeah, which is crazy because they're still the class of
really,
5A.
really
Absolutely.
Good.
There's no, and especially with the success that Geyer's having, you understand now that is a bona fide team. But you talk about JoJo Earl moving now to running back, and there not being a drop off. I think that they're going to look the same. I don't think that there's going to be, because of the style that these guys are 1A and 1A as far as the type of athlete that they are. So Aledo does it again. They find these young guys that they play there for like 6 years, and
they grow up within the system. They do it right.
Absolutely, and they're doing the same thing again. And I just feel like that this JoJo Earl time is we're just going to see this kid shine time and time again.
Yeah, that's going to be fun. And I think this is a different aspect of looking at a Jace McClellan-less Aledo squad and how they're going to fare overall, and that's something that we haven't gotten to see yet.
Yeah, and Midlothian had 2 costly fumbles last week, like we talked about. Aledo forced 5 turnovers defensively last week, so that's going to be something to watch for as well. Midlothian's going to have to take care of the football if they want a chance to hang with this team. And like I said, Aledo 60 points in every single game except for 1 this year.
Rockwall Heath and Mesquite we'll actually hit that game here in a little bit. It's a pick'em game, so we'll talk about that later in the hour. But Royce City and Ennis, do want to hit this one really quick. District 8, 5A, Division 2. And Royce City very quietly putting up numbers in 8, 5A, 4-0, 9 points per game allowed defensively, and they're putting up 515 points. That's a good stat line for Royce City, a squad that has probably not played the toughest of competition, but they're going to see a good test tonight in Ennis.
Yeah, and Ennis is a team, they want to run the football, even though they're kind of going back and morphing to a spread-ish offense there with Drake leading the helm. He's had over 1,000 yards passing and 8 touchdowns. But Royce City's defense is the truth, man. I think that's one of the more unheralded stories so far of the season here in 5A Division 2. Royce City not only being undefeated, but they've quietly got one of the best defenses in the area.
That's been kind of a budding program for a little bit of time. They were in that district with Highland Park for a little bit a couple years ago, and now they're starting to find their rhythm in 8-5A. We're starting to find our rhythm here in hour number 2 of Whataburger Friday Night Stars. When we come back, we'll be joined in studio by none other than Professor Diggs. Matt Diggs joins us. We're going to talk
the
some
man,
playoff.
the myth, the legend.
The man, the myth, the legend.
Professor Diggs.
We're gonna talk with Professor Diggs about some playoff scenarios. We're going to talk about a couple of different games, and then we're going to get into that South Lake Carroll Denton Guyer matchup when we return here on Whataburger Friday Night Stars.
The one and only Arnold Schwarzenegger.
I ate a lot of meat. They showed us commercials. Steak. That's what a man eats. Selling that idea that real men eat meat. Serious man food. But you got to understand, that's marketing. That's not based on reality.
I've been teaching fighting techniques to government agencies for more than 15 years. Then I got injured. Unable to teach for at least 6 months, I spent more than 1,000 hours studying science on recovery and nutrition, and stumbled across a study about the Roman gladiators.
The gladiators were predominantly vegetarian.
How could the original professional fighters be so powerful, eating only plants?
When I made the switch to a plant-based diet, I qualified for my 3rd Olympic team. I broke 2 American records. I was like, man, I should have done this a long while ago.
When I went plant-based, I wasn't sure if I was going to survive. And I actually became like a machine.
One of the biggest misconceptions in sports nutrition is that we have to have animal protein to perform at a high level. That's just not true.
Sometimes you have to do things that you know your competitors aren't doing.
Today's blood and yesterday's blood.
I think this is going to wake a lot of people up.
I was recovering better, not getting as sore. This was our best season in the last 15 years, and we had 14 guys on plant-based diets.
We all want to feel great, have more energy.
Cholesterol was 276. Today, 169.
Whoa, now you're talking.
Most guys my age can keep up with the grandchildren. My grandchildren can't keep up with me.
It's not one set of dietary guidelines for improving your performance as an athlete, another one for reversing heart disease, reversing diabetes. It's the same for all of them.
Someone asked me, how could you get as strong as an ox without eating any meat? And my answer was, have you ever seen an ox eating meat?
Whataburger Friday Night Stars, Week 6 edition. As we get set for all of the matchups throughout the DFW area. Glad you're with us. Now joined, though, by a very special Professor Diggs, Matt Diggs in studio. And do we call you Professor? Do we call you Matt?
I think you should call me Professor. I've earned that name. I
You
spent
are
a
a
lot
professor.
of student loans. I am a legit professor. I teach psychology, so you can imagine how my brain is going right now with you four.
It's crazy.
It's
going to be tough to get a read.
It's like I've known you because I watch you on the podcast every week. So like Heckman, I feel like Heckman and I are best friends. He couldn't pick me out of a lineup, but I feel like he and I are good friends
I'm
already.
picking you right now. I got you.
Can. So that's
now we can.
I didn't know you were a real professor. I thought that was just
that was like a marketing tagline.
You're a straight up professor.
Straight up professor.
Wow.
The real deal.
How
That's
about that?
Awesome. So teach us a little bit tonight, since you are the professor, and you're going to be with us in and out of studio over the next, I guess, 2.5 hours now. Since 9 to 11, we'll be back on as well for our overtime show. But there's a lot of games tonight that have some playoff implications. I mean, Week 6 is really when you start looking into playoff scenarios and hypotheticals of certain things. And one game that we haven't gotten to talk about, and we are definitely talking about it, South Lake Carroll, Denton Guyer. There is a lot at stake, not only throughout that district, but really in the entirety of the 6A level of how this game turns out.
Absolutely. How you deem your success as a season. Some people have different markers on how they deem success. Is it winning a state championship? Is it playing until December, having to practice for Thanksgiving? And so much of that is based on your playoff run, just kind of the luck. There are some really average teams who get to play 3 or 4 rounds based on who they play. And there are teams really good teams that get out after the second week based on how they play. And depending on how the playoffs work and how other teams in this district go, getting that first seed in District 5 or 5-6A is so important because it gives you a little bit of an easier route. If you kind of think of it in lining up districts, odd teams play odd teams. So 5 plays 7 in the second round, and you want to avoid 8 because you know who's an 8, Heckma. You got Duncanville. That's probably your first seed.
Yes.
And you don't want to have that early.
I got some questions.
Okay.
So I'm going to break you up here. So how does this happen with DeSoto?
The light just went on. Did you see that?
You see that?
Yeah.
It did. Because he's the man. He can answer this question for me. So is it possible that DeSoto and Duncanville can actually be District 1, District 2, or will they both be in District 1?
They can both be in Duncanville's definitely going to be in Division 1. DeSoto will probably be in Division 1 as long as they make the playoffs. South Grand Prairie will probably be there. But imagine this. If for whatever reason, I know you love South Grand Prairie, if they knock off DeSoto goes 9-1, they would play Duncanville in the first round of the playoffs.
Oh, my gosh.
So obviously that's not going to happen.
That's not. Hey, SGP, you gotta have faith in your boys.
I mean, you really brought up something that I've been struggling with, trying to figure out if this can possibly happen, because I don't want that to happen. And you're telling me right now, if SGP wins the last game, oh my God.
They would play in the first round of the playoffs.
You just canceled Christmas
at
for me
Duncanville
right there.
High School, mind you. They'd be at Duncanville for that game. It's the first round of the
doesn't
playoffs.
bode well.
Home team gets the better team
They've
gets the home
faced
game.
bad luck. Now, for Geyer, they're most likely a Division II squad.
Not always.
What's the scenario where they'd bump up to 1?
We talk about Northwest Eaton had a big win this past week, and if Northwest Eaton and Fossil Ridge both make the playoffs, then Denton Geyer gets bumped up to Division I.
And that's a bummer for them.
That would be a bummer
run
for them.
D2, but 1 will be a gauntlet for Geyer.
But then if all it's going to take is somebody like Keller Central or Keller to make the playoffs, then that would put them down to Division II.
What district has been the most surprising for you so far this year?
There's been a lot of interesting things so far. What has been the most surprising? Give me a little definition. What do you want as far as your criteria for assessment?
Maybe a district that you didn't think would be very competitive. For me, I'm looking at 10-6A with Saxe and Garland. I thought Saxe would run away with that district, but they have not looked very good so far this season.
They really haven't, and they've been up and down. They look good in spurts. And I think what you point out about District 10-6A, we thought it was going to be the Big Four and then the scrubs at the bottom of the district. But what we're seeing now is the bottom is moving up. Garland is much better this year. You're seeing South Garland being more competitive, even though they're probably not going to win a district game. You're seeing Lakeview Centennial, big win last night against Wiley. North Garland and Rowlett's a little bit more down to the pack. So now you have 6 or 7 teams legitimately vying for the 3 or 4 spots. And now we saw Wiley losing to Lakeview Centennial. It's just complete chaos in this district.
That's all over the place.
It really is. I don't know how that's going to shake out. Now, last week you got to see Plano East, a team that you know and love, play Prosper.
I did.
And since then, and we've talked about it on the show, and it's also, Eric and I are members of 105.3 The Fan, and our own Ben Rogers is a Prosper guy, and he is really hyping up this Prosper.
He attacked me this week.
I saw that on Twitter.
Did.
And you know what? I wanted to come to your defense,
Did
but
it get
now
physical?
You'll get a chance to defend yourself here.
I think I could take him.
Yeah, I think you could too. You've seen Prosper live.
I have.
You've seen Allen a ton, just like I have.
Right.
Do you think there is a legitimate chance that Prosper can knock off Allen?
Legit chance, so you're saying there's a chance.
More than a puncher's chance.
It's
More
likely,
than a puncher's
it's likely
chance.
to happen.
Come on.
I would say that Allen's probably a 3-1 favorite, 75%. If you're going to put it on a computer model, if we're going to go to Vegas and put those kinds of odds on it, I would say Allen is going to be a 3-1 favorite.
Wow.
Prosper is a good team, but they're not ready for prime time.
Now, Barry, the quarterback, he makes the difference for me. He's playing lights out. I mean, you don't think that makes the difference? And also Prosper's defense, as aggressive as they've been.
Prosper's defense is not that good.
Whoa.
Now
Their offensive line, though.
Their offensive line with Jake Majors is fantastic. But when you look at their defense has been beating up on bad teams.
They beat Flower Mound.
They beat Flower Mound, but look at the second half. It was 35-3 in the first half, and in the second half, they made some offensive adjustments, were able to do things. Prosper is not a bad team by any means. When I say their defense is above average, but their defense needs to be great. It's going to be their offense that's going to determine whether or not they're going to be able to beat teams like Allen, because Allen's going to put up points on that defense. Now, can their offense retaliate? And they have a really good they have a good wide receiver, Tyler Bailey. I think he can match up and create some difference, be a difference maker against a team like Allen, who has a suspect secondary.
I am really excited for 9 o'clock to 11 o'clock so we can talk about this a little bit more, because that's awesome. We're running short on time. We're going to have you back. He'll be on for the overtime show, but Professor Diggs joining us here real quickly for Whataburger Friday Night Stars. And Matt, thanks so much, man.
Thanks for having me. I'm ready for overtime already.
I know. Let's just skip it.
Let's just keep going.
Get our time machines and boom, we're there.
When we come back, we're going to talk about Denton Geyer, South Lake Carroll. We're going to preview this matchup. Jeremy Beedling in the other room got a chance to catch up with Denton Geyer. We've got some exclusive interviews. And then Heckma, we're heading across the hall. We're going to have some film session
that's beautiful.
with Heckma Harrison here in just a moment. Here on Whataburger Friday Night Stars.
Hi there, this is Dak Prescott. When it comes time to shop for my tailgate favorites, I go to my stores, Albertsons and Tom Thumb, where they offer fresh organics and large assortments of local produce and sell only USDA choice meats. Get 10% off of your groceries every Dallas Cowboy game day when you wear your Cowboy jerseys. Albertsons and Tom Thumb, the winning combination and the official supermarket and pharmacy of the Dallas Cowboys.
Gear up for back to sport at Academy Sports and Outdoors.
It's in all of us, and we won't hold it back. Not one little bit. Nope, we embrace it, letting it fuel our passions, pushing us deeper than we thought possible and keeping us curious. It's what sets us apart from the herd. It's how we come up with the ideas that make people say, why didn't I think of that? See, when you nurture the creativity and passion that's in all of us, you'll learn nothing is out of reach.
Ashley Home Store, the #1 furniture and mattress store in America. We have all the major mattress brands at a guaranteed low price. Plus, we have furniture for every room in the house and decorator accessories to make it yours. With multiple locations, personalized service from knowledgeable associates, and convenient finance plans to fit your budget. Ashley Home Store, the official furniture store of the Dallas Cowboys. This is home.
Get excited, Whataburger fans. Our one-of-a-kind mushroom Swiss burger is back.
And now it's an all-time favorite. If you love mushrooms, you're going to love this burger.
The double cheese, the mushrooms was absolutely amazing.
It's a really good balance between the mushrooms and the Swiss. That au jus sauce on top.
The creamy au jus sauce.
It really complements the mushrooms. Everything just works perfectly together.
It's just perfect. Every bite's perfect.
It's not just a mushroom Swiss burger, it's a Whataburger mushroom Swiss burger.
Friday Night Stars back here from the Star in Frisco. Great to have both Nick Harris and Professor Diggs.
I feel so much smarter now.
My
smarter
God.
for the first time in a long
I feel
time.
so much smarter too.
I feel like I know
he
what I'm talking
represented
about.
the Plano ISD the way it's supposed to be represented.
Better than
right?
any other Plano ISD grad has ever represented.
Yeah, don't say Plano because he'll get upset about
yeah,
that.
Plano
It's
ISD.
Plano
I
East.
put it in there. Don't worry.
Yeah.
We've got ourselves a ball game brewing up in Denton, and this is going to be a fun one overall. Let's take a look at our tag board. Uncle Fraz, Mr. Guy Frazier, taking a look at South Lake in the icy white uniforms, getting ready and stretched out. And you can't hear it, but you can read it on the tweet. Baby Shark playing as the South Lake squad warms up.
Is Elvis Sanders coming to bat?
A little bit of a Baby Shark going on.
That's a downer for me. That's a downer for me.
I knew you were a baseball guy.
It's Friday Night Football. All right, let's get some bangers in there.
On the other side, then you've got Texas A&M commit, and one guy
so
we've
negative.
talked about plenty, Eli
Baby Shark
Stowers.
before a huge game between the Dragons.
No, they're trying
and
to
the
subdue
Wildcats.
the opponent, is what it is.
Yeah, they're subduing the. They're subduing the.
Let them do it, okay?
They're subduing their own team. Their own team has to hear that, do they not?
Geyer gets pumped for that.
That's exactly
Golly.
it. But here's Eli Stowers warming up for Denton Geyer, a squad that's going to be interesting to watch.
I wonder if they're rocking the All Blacks.
I don't know.
Encounter.
I think
it looks like they got the
might
black
be.
pants on.
That's going to be a fun uniform matchup and a fun game overall. Our very own Jeremy Beetling got a chance to catch up with that Denton Geyer squad as they look to kind of defend their home turf at C.H. Collins later this afternoon.
The message is clear here at Denton Geyer as the Wildcats prepare for their Friday night matchup against South Lake Carroll.
They should expect a lot more than they did last year. We'll come back for revenge.
John Walsh, head coach of Denton Geyer, told me this is a game that his team is looking forward to and believes this game has major implications for both programs.
You know, I think we're a top 10 team, and I think they're a top 10 team, and so I think it's going to be a great spectator game. You know, for us, it means lots of things. You know, we like to play top tier talent before you get to the playoffs, just to see where we're at. We've done that with the lead on Cedar Hill. South Lake will be our third game in 5 in that manner. So it's and puts us in the driver's seat for the district championship and seeding, all that good stuff.
After losing to Southlake last year on a 23-yard halfback pass in the final seconds of the game, the Denton-Guyer defense is more focused than ever.
They think they can play with us, but I really don't think they can. They got lucky last year off a trick play, so if we just continue to do what we've always been doing, just smarter than what we have and play tough and play stronger than we are, than they are, then I have no doubt that we can shut them out.
The Denton-Guyer offense is led by quarterback Eli Stowers, who says the team has been studying up extra for this week in preparation for what the Southlake defense brings to the table.
Southlake's a team. When you make mental mistakes, they're going to get you. So, this year we're focusing on, working on not letting any mistakes happen, and just executing what we have. Southlake is definitely their defense is one of the more complex defenses in high school, I would say. We've watched a lot of film. I think we have a really good game plan. We just have to execute it. They run some exotic blitzes that we really don't see from a lot of teams. They run a bunch of different coverages. They give us a lot of different fronts. So we just got to study film. Like I said, we have a good game plan. We just got to execute it.
Even though position players get most of the attention, running back Kedrick Cobbs and Coach Walsh say it's the linemen that bring the intensity and help this offense thrive.
Our line has done a good job preparing for those backs. Have done a good job knowing which backers we have to pick up and just making sure 5 doesn't have to go to the ground, take any sacks or anything like that. Powerful, they're so strong. They create a lot of movement up front, make things easy for us backs.
So, Eli and Kedrick and Metter and Romar, they get all the publicity. They score the touchdowns. They deserve a lot of credit because they're talented and they make things look easy. But that offensive line, is incredible, man. They can run block, they can pass block, and they've been dominated up front to make everything easy. So a few guys get a lot of credit, but there's a whole bunch of guys that make this go. Our whole offseason and our strength program is built on having a mentality on that where that ball gets spotted, and I don't care what side of the ball you're on. If you don't have a nasty mentality, you can't play for Guyer High School.
From Denton-Guyer High School, this is Jeremy Beedling reporting for Friday Night Stars.
Hey everyone, welcome back into Whataburger Friday Night Stars. Kyle Yeomans back with Heckma Harrison as we give our first film room installment here for Friday Night Stars. We're going to take a look at Lone Star and the Rangers, the #1 ranked team in the 5A level that have not only become contenders at the level, but favorites to win a state championship. And one of the reasons they've been so successful on both sides of the football, but more importantly, it's been Marvin Mims on the offense.
Yeah, Marvin Mims is the man. He's right up here for you guys, right here. #1, number 18, but #1 in your heart. This guy is a very special guy. Roll it for us, Kent. And so as you can tell, these guys are going to do a lot of motion. Now, once you freeze it right here, Kent, so what they're doing is they're stacking it up, because what happens a lot of times is you have a free safety right here over the top. Now, the amazing thing about this is they're close to Marvin. Most people play him, give him at least a little free release on that because he's so fast. But not in this case. They're trying to play him true bump and run right here. Roll it for me right quick, Kent. So once you see him come off of the ball, no false steps, freeze it right here. And obviously he's ran out of the play, but literally at this point, guys, he's already gone. Right here, there's a safety over the top, but he's passed by everybody. If you could tell, this guy is trying to open and run with Mims. But listen, guys, it's good night, Irene. Once Rangel lets go of that ball, he's going to catch it in motion. He's running by safeties and everybody. You got to imagine how fast this kid is. Marvin Mims is incredible.
Well, he literally ran off of the screen before the play really even started. And the fact that you're seeing man-on-man coverage on the high side that point is kind of intriguing. And the fact is later in the football game, backed up in their own end zone, not only did they take away the man-on-man coverage, but Wakeland still got burned.
Yeah, there's nothing man about this. They're showing it. They're trying to bump what they're trying not to do is give him a two-way go, and that's smart, because a lot of times when you come against a guy like Marvin Mims that is as fast as he is, you got to kind of throw him off his square, okay? And so that's what Wakeland is trying to do. But on this play right here, this is vintage, and I say vintage for a high school guy, but this is vintage Marvin Mims. He doesn't take any false steps. I'm telling you, Kyle, this guy comes off the ball like a cannon, all right? Roll it for me, Kent. And so this is just a simple slant route for him, okay? 1, 2, 3, break to the inside, but look at how fast stop it right there. Oh my God! Could you roll it back for me right quick, Ken?
It's already got a step
I gotta
there.
I gotta show you one more step right there. Once he takes this step right here, this guy right here is beat already. If you can look right here, his steps. He's pivoting on his. He's heavy on his front foot. Marvin is already turned and he's running. The only guy that can tackle Marvin Mims has on the wrong jersey, right? And that's this guy down here. But Marvin Mims is out of here. Roll it. Go ahead and roll it, Ken. Great catch, and this all it is now is a race to the pylon. And like I said, there's a free safety over the top of this as well. And still, free release off the ball, and he is gone. That was a 90-yard touchdown to open the game. This guy is absolutely fantastic, guys.
2 touchdowns in the first quarter.
Yes.
Both of them over 60 yards for that guy right there, Marvin Mims. But one of the things that's made this Lone Star team so successful here in 2019 is their defense. And really, the defense has kind of been the identity for the Rangers in the past. What is different, though, about 2019?
Well, the one thing that Lone Star does that I think is very unique to a lot of teams, because a lot of teams play a 4-3, Lone Star has faith in their front 3 guys. They get pressure with just these 3 guys, okay, and 2 true linebackers. The rest of these 6 guys, they're all DBs, right? And so these guys' responsibility is to gobble up blocks, get in the gap, and hopefully get a double team, basically. And so for Wakeland, because they run a true RPO offense, they know that these guys out here, they have the read is on the quarterback and the running back. Roll it for me right quick, Kent. And so as soon as the ball is snapped, stop it right there. All right, so these blocks, they're kicking everybody out here. This is the run-pass option, right? Mm-hmm. So this guy over here knows that he has the quarterback. If the quarterback releases out to that side, or if he takes it, the running back, releases to that side, this guy on the outside out here is wanting to make sure that nothing gets outside of him, and the out of bounds is his defender, okay? So he sees that they read it forward right here, your linebacker. He automatically sees the ball right there, so he's going to read quarterback sneak. Go ahead and roll it for me, Kent. So once he takes it, stops right there. Once he gets right here, he's already out of the play. So literally, great block by Wakeland's tackle right there to get rid of Ford. Ford's out of the play. As you can see, there's a few defenders already down there playing patty cake down here at the bottom. But literally, this is a play where Wakeland had the advantage. Now, this is something that's very important to note. This guy literally has a bunch of daylight. He's trying to make a decision. Back it up a little bit for me, Kent, because I want to give an example right there. This is number 15, Torrin Pittman, 6'4", 200 pounds. This kid is
off the screen.
He's going to come into the screen in just a second. But number 40 is trying to place a block on Pittman. What does Pittman do? Very heady for a senior in high school to make this decision. He takes on the block. He can see that he's basically situational awareness. He understands that all of my help, if I try and push him inside, all of my guys are inside. Outside, I got a few guys waiting on him out here. He takes on the block. Roll it for me right quick, Kent. Stop it right there. Once he hits this guy, he makes the tackle. 40 is supposed to make a play on a block on him. But 15, he makes a tackle. Not only does he make a tackle, man down, hand down, whatever you want to say, but the ball is on the ground, okay? And, man, just a great play. Just a great play for Frisco Lone Star's defense. I can't say enough about the job that Torrin Pittman did on that play, because literally he had 15 yards in front of him, 15 yards side to side, and he makes a solo tackle and makes a quarterback fumble.
Unbelievable from that defense. And one thing that I kind of noticed at the back end of that play, there were a lot of white jerseys around that football when it did pop out. Just situational awareness, and that's something that Frisco Lone Star and that entire coaching staff has succeeded at here in 2019. He's Heckma Harrison. Kyle Yeomans here for Whataburger Friday Night Stars. When we come back, we'll continue with our Week 6 show as we get things ready for the DFW area of Texas high school football. We'll be back in just a moment.
Hi there, this is Dak Prescott. When it comes time to shop for my tailgate favorites, I go to my stores, Albertsons and Tom Thumb, where they offer fresh organics and large assortments of local produce and sell only USDA choice meats. Get 10% off of your groceries every Dallas Cowboy game day when you wear your Cowboy jerseys. Albertsons and Tom Thumb, the winning combination and the official supermarket and pharmacy of the Dallas Cowboys.
Gear up for back to sport at Academy Sports and Outdoors.
It's in all of us, and we won't hold it back. Not one little bit. Nope, we embrace it, letting it fuel our passions, pushing us deeper than we thought possible and keeping us curious. It's what sets us apart from the herd. It's how we come up with the ideas that make people say, why didn't I think of that? See, when you nurture the creativity and passion that's in all of us, you'll learn nothing is out of reach.
Ashley Home Store, the #1 furniture and mattress store in America. We have all the major mattress brands at a guaranteed low price. Plus, we have furniture for every room in the house and decorator accessories to make it yours. With multiple locations, personalized service from knowledgeable associates, and convenient finance plans to fit your budget. Ashley Home Store, the official furniture store of the Dallas Cowboys. This is home.
Get excited, Whataburger fans. Our one-of-a-kind mushroom Swiss burger is back.
And now it's an all-time favorite. If you love mushrooms, you're going to love this burger.
The double cheese, the mushrooms was absolutely amazing.
It's a really good balance between the mushrooms and the Swiss, and that au jus sauce on top.
The creamy au jus sauce.
It really complements the mushrooms. Everything just works perfectly together.
It's just perfect. Every bite's perfect.
It's not just a mushroom Swiss burger, it's a Whataburger mushroom Swiss burger.
Live look inside the Ford Center across the way here in Frisco at the Star, home to the Dallas Cowboys headquarters. And tonight it's home to Heritage and Independence, our Whataburger Friday Night Stars matchup. Got a little bit of a band action in there from the Independence
you know I love my
squad.
Battle of the Bands,
That's
brother.
one of the favorite things. That's one of the favorite things, the Battle of the Bands.
One of the better trombone players in Plano history.
I wish I was a member of the band. The Bland band.
Say, I actually played
No,
trombone.
you are our resident.
You were the trombone.
He was the band
Walchuk
expert.
was
I'm
the
just
color
a fan
guard
of the band.
And a color guard guy, so
he was a big.
Lot
I
of
don't think
talent.
they allow men in
Loves
the
the
color
color
guard.
guard.
Think they
yeah.
do.
No doubt about it.
Maybe
They
at
all
Chester
have it.
Northwest?
Yeah. No doubt. Yeah, they've all got it. Don't worry about that.
It's the red guard.
All right, boys, it's time to get into some predictions. And I know this week Zach and I are riding high. Heckma and Eric trying to bounce back after a week.
Oh, we will. Oh, we will.
A week. How about that last week?
Oh, we will.
I have faith in Heckma bouncing
So what's the
yeah.
What do we got?
You got to turn on your mic there, buddy.
Where's Malachi?
You got to tell me how I'm going to strangle you on air.
You're close enough now.
Roll the tape, Garrett. Roll the tape. Big boy.
Looking at some of the standings, 21-7. I lead the way. Heckma's in second. He's just a game back. If he can hold it together for
Let's
just a little
change
bit.
that second name to Malachi Harrison.
That's me.
Yeah.
All day long.
Zach leaped Eric last week, and Eric Chiafalo bringing up the rear, but we're all
He's
close
used to that,
together.
though.
Story of my
In
life.
more ways than one.
No doubt. I mean, that is a close four standings, and we're actually starting this week. We're also getting our reporters in on our pickups as well, so we'll start bringing in some
well, how's
reporters.
that gonna
Wow,
work?
that's going to be good. When we
it'll
get
be
showed
different.
up by the reporters.
Well,
That's great.
it'll be a
news.
separate thing.
Okay,
it'll
thank
be its
God,
own
'cause
separate
I
thing.
can't deal with that embarrassment.
No, you can't do that. But
am
we're
going
going to
to
get all
My
the,
money's on Hartley.
Yeah, it might be on Mallory. You never know.
No, it is.
How about this? Let's start with Fort Worth All Saints and Prestonwood Christian Academy. We talked about this game earlier. Fort Worth All Saints coming off a loss last week, turning around. Prestonwood winning 3 straight, I believe, going into this one. Zach, we'll start with you. Who you got?
You know what? I don't really have a great feeling either way, but I like Prestonwood at home. I think maybe Switzer can finally throw the ball down the field.
Switz Army knife.
To his big 2 twin towers out there at receiver. I'm going to go PCA at home. I just feel like historically this is a game that program pulls out.
It's the Taylor Beam game tonight, ladies and gentlemen. That's what's going to happen. Switzer to Beam 3 times.
I like it.
I'd love it.
I want some more of it.
Oh, my man. So you're going Prestonwood too?
Yeah, I'm going Prestonwood,
Okay.
no question. Noham Faye is my guess for
Which is a big
for All
loss
Saints.
if
That's
he can't
huge.
go.
One of the best passers in the area. If you're not going to have him, you saw last week the backup went in there threw 3 interceptions. This is not a team that can win football games. All Saints without their starting quarterback, Ham Faye.
Yeah, Switzer is the guy that started to realize that he can run the ball now. So if all else fails, you know he's going to get out in space and run it. So I'm going PCA.
All right, I'm going to go PCA here as well. I think Prestonwood gets it done at home. Fort Worth All Saints potentially losing 2 straight after a very impressive start to the season. Grapevine at Birdville, a rivalry matchup that we've definitely kept our eye on all night long. I'm going to start this one out. I'm going to take Birdville and the Hawks at home.
I will as well. I think their defense is more capable of making the big stop than Grapevine's is. Even without Ladarius Mixon, I do think Heckma's guy, Stone Earl, is he's the truth.
Heckma, who you got?
I'm going Birdville.
All right.
Yeah, even if Mixon doesn't play, which is an if, he's a game-time decision, maybe he does. So if they do, I'm all in on Birdville. If he doesn't, I think this is going to be a close game. And Grapevine finds a way to pull out some of those ugly ones, but I think Stone Earl, with his receiving core, I think that is what sets them apart. Their depth at receiver to withstand a loss of Mixon, I'm going to go Birdville as well. So that's awesome. There's a whole lot of drama. We're all going with the same picks.
Yep, yeah, same picks on the first 2. I think these are good games, though, and they honestly, we could have all
we
of
might be
us,
0-2.
All of us might be wrong in those first 2. Hebron on the road against Capel, and the Cowboys at home, Buddy Eccles Field. Heckma, we're going to start off with you.
This one was a tough one to put together, okay? You did make it easy, Chuck.
I tried to pick games that were going to be tough.
This is a good one.
I mean, Capel is getting off to a better start offensively. I think they found their quarterback that they want to go with.
Yeah.
Schumann is looking good. But Hebron is the better team. I think defensively they do it for me. I offensively, I think they have some studs as well. So I'm going Hebron on this one, man. It's a hard one.
Yeah, I'm with you. I go Hebron. Hebron's got a stud defense. We talked about guys like Darius Snow, Carter Norway. They only give up less than 250 yards per game defensively and under 20 points. And I don't think Capel has an answer for the studs like Isaiah Broadway, Carson Harris, Jalen Lawton, Nick Frazier. I don't think that young Capel defense can stop that Hebron offense.
I think Capel has an answer, and I think it's Kevin Schumann is the name
right
there. And I think he has a breakout game for Capel. I'm going to take the Cowboys in this one, CHS all the way. And, I mean, Zach, I'm kind of interested to see where you lie here.
Yeah, I think Capel with Schumann kind of taking over the reins there. They're 3 deep at receiver. My question is, these 2 have mentioned Hebron's got a lot of talent on that offense with Broadway. I think Jalen Lott is the X factor in this one. UTSA commit. Jalen Lott's a player that can play all over the field, whether it's wide receiver or running back, and I'm a big fan of Carson Harris. This is a game Hebron should win, but we've seen landmines with this Hebron Hawk team every single year. There's a hiccup game. It could be tonight against Capel, who's tough at home, but I agree with Heckman. I think Hebron's the better team. I'm going with the Hawks tonight.
All right, that's a pretty good, solid split there. I'm all by myself, but I'm going to take Capel in that one.
I hate it when you're by yourself. That's when you win.
That's why I'm first place right now, but it also could be while I'm in last later. Let's go with Rockwall Heath on the road against Mesquite, a Mesquite squad overall that has found their footing a little bit here over the last couple of weeks. Rockwall Heath, though, on the road, can they get the job done against the Skeeters?
I'm a big fan of Rockwall Heath's offense. If they could find a defense, Heath could be one of those teams that legitimately could be a contender. When you look at Josh Hoover, who's one of the best quarterbacks in the area, they've also got their own Zach Evans at running back, who's not bad. But Hoover at quarterback, pretty darn good player. The question is, do they have a defense that can stop Mesquite? Mesquite was really disappointing last week against Horn. It's a game that I thought Mesquite would win. This is a close one. I think Rockwall Heath's offense is too much for the Skeeters. I'm going to go with Heath.
All right, Heckma.
Yeah, oh God, I'm doubling down on the Skeeters.
Wow.
I'm doubling down on them.
I do love Ladarius Turner.
I just felt
Great
like last
running
week,
back.
I could not believe that they lost last week. I'm still shocked about it, and I'm doubling down on it. So that's I'm going Skeeters.
All right.
Yeah, I'm gonna trust the Skeeters defense, and I will take Mesquite at home.
All right, so I'm going to take Rockwall Heath
God,
on the road.
I hate it when you guys do
so
that.
this is
man.
going to be.
This is what I need.
This was a close interesting. We're also in the presence of some greatness, by the way. Just over across the way, it's the Fantennial event hosted by the NFL. Drew Pearson in attendance. He's going to be handing out some commemorative
The original
game
88.
balls. Yes.
The original
He
88.
is getting things started
The
for
man.
Frisco Independence and Frisco Heritage, the Coyotes and the Knights, and he's even got a mic in hand. Man, they've hooked up Drew Pearson.
Hey, we've heard him on the mic before at the NFL draft. He
He's a
knows
stud.
how to get the party started, Mr. Drew Pearson. What a stud.
Oh, man, a legend amongst the legends, no doubt about it. And he is back where he belongs, and he's got a big ring on that finger as well. I wonder if that's one of the Super Bowl rings.
I would imagine.
I would probably go ahead and guess so. But they're also in the presence of some greatness. I wouldn't necessarily put them on the same level, but in Denton, how about Todd Dodge? joining the party, and of course Riley Dodge, head coach at South Lake Carroll, and Todd Dodge in attendance. It must mean Westlake is off tonight, and the chaps down in Austin taking a night off because it's a big game today as his son taking on Denton Geyer in that one, and that is our next pick'em game. It's our highlighted matchup tonight. We haven't even gotten to really dig deep into
so
this.
So upset, too. I did so much prep for
Well,
this.
let's do it. Let's talk about it right now. We've got 5 minutes to go through this game.
Okay.
South Lake Carroll, Denton Geyer. This is going to be potentially one of the games of the year.
Last year, it was without question a Game of the Year candidate. Came down to the final play. I believe it was a trick play. I think it was Blake Smith maybe that threw the touchdown.
It was.
As Geyer called the timeout, John Walsh talked about it with Reese Waddell, his daily interview with the Denton Record Chronicle. He called the timeout right before it. He regrets it. He thinks maybe that gave South Lake Carroll just enough time to go ahead and change their mind from the field goal try, insert the trick play. I don't think so. I think Dodge knew I'm running the trick play there. They had that in their back pocket, and it worked. I'll tell you what, boys. This is a Denton Geyer team that is special, and I think this is going to be, if they haven't already made statements with victories over Aledo and Cedar Hill, they will tonight. I think they're head and shoulders a better football team than South Lake Carroll. I think they prove it. I know that Carroll's spread is going to cause some problems. It does for everybody. They want to spread out Denton Geyer's defense. I think they've got sneaky good athleticism with their linebackers. I love Grant Mahone, and I know that South Lake has a really good offensive line. But if this is a shootout, I think it favors Geyer. They've been there. They've done that so far this year. When you look at Stowers, they've got 3 deep at receivers. Seth Metter leads the way for them. Cobb's running the football. I think this is a big game for Quinn Ewers. They're going to put a lot of pressure on him. He's probably going to have to utilize his legs, but I like Denton Geyer in this game, and it wouldn't surprise me if they won it by more than one score. They could win it by 10, in my opinion. I think Geyer's head and shoulders the better football team.
Yeah, this is a high potent Geyer offense, and Nick Harris from the old coach came in earlier and mentioned that Southlake will be without their 2 leading rushers tonight, so that's even more pressure on the road for the young quarterback Ewers, who we've seen play really, really well, and the expectations are really through the roof for him, but he is only a sophomore, and I know the Geyer defense hasn't been incredible, but on the flip side, Southlake's defense that has looked really good, this is far and away their toughest test of the year, going up against guys like Cobbs, Stowers, Metter. I mean, this is, and the offensive line, we talked about it in the package earlier from Jeremy. Coach Walsh acknowledged like one of the biggest reasons why their team is so good is because of that offensive line. We saw them dominate, week in, week out, particularly against Aledo in week 1. I mean, that big offensive line will get after you. I think that Southlake defense is going to be tested super, super tough tonight, and I think Geyer's, just like you said, I think they're the better team and at home, and they're on a revenge tour, right? I mean, they've been on it all year. They've been dominating the teams that beat them last year. This is another one of those games at home. I imagine John Walsh and company get the job done.
Yeah, it's the same for me with Geyer. I'm going Geyer. Kedra Cobb is the difference in this game. I like the way that Geyer is setting up their games this year. They have a slow, methodical start to games, and they want to bludgeon teams. I know
they want to start fast tonight. They can't afford a slow start like they had last week against Keller Central.
And I think the thing that you have to look at as well is that if Kedra Cobb, even in the third quarter, is at 65 yards, then it's working. And I'll tell you why it's working. Because what that means is by the time you get to the fourth quarter, that means he's going to be running all downhill. And he's been doing that. He did that last week and the week beforehand. And literally, every week he's bringing out something new to his arsenal, whether it's a stiff arm or a move that we hadn't seen him make before. He's not just balling over people anymore.
I'll tell you, the one guy for South Lake Carroll that we haven't seen a lot used offensively is R.J. Mickens. They will have to play him over on that side of the ball tonight. Do they find a way to utilize him that Geyer has not seen on tape that might surprise them for some trick plays or big plays down the field? The Dragons will need some of that kind of razzle-dazzle.
Yeah, the only thing with that is the fact that Mickens has been out for quite some time, and he's kind of been battling some injuries this year. So if he's that's a big
if he's good to go.
That's one thing you got to look out for. I'm going to go with Southlake here. And the reason why 13 points per game defensively for that Southlake squad, I think that's a Dragons defense that swarms to the football. I think overall they're going to have a size advantage. I really don't like the size overall for Denton Geyer. I really think Denton...
Defensively in particular?
Yeah, defensively in particular. And then offensively, I think that offensive line is going to have a tough task in terms of slowing down the defense for Southlake overall. So I'm going to go with the Dragons here. I'm differing in that regard. I think this is going to be an incredible football game. that's going to cap off just an incredible week of Texas high school football. Week 6 in our Whataburger Friday Night Stars kickoff show coming to a close. Do want to thank everybody involved in this initial broadcast. Be sure to join us, though, 9 o'clock to 11 o'clock tonight here from the Star in Frisco. For Zach Wolchuk, Heckma Harrison, Eric Chiafalo, for Chris Beam, Matt Kent, and the entire Friday Night Stars crew, we'll see you at 9 o'clock. Thanks for joining us, and God bless.